word for word. I got a soda can I can recack. All right. In three, two, one. What's going on, everybody? It's me, RDV. You're with my favorite co-host and the guy who's somehow has a channel I didn't know about, Ash on
I
Comics.
decided to start a channel because everyone was saying like I should have one.
Great. Now you can sit for Zach.
Zach, he's the best.
He is. He has all the hot takes. Never cold takes. They're always hot.
Never. He's got all the best comic takes. And he's just really open-minded. He never shows any sort of prejudice to any certain comic characters or anything of that nature.
Exactly. I don't know what anybody can hear that other than us.
Oh, it
That's
comes
all.
through. Everything comes
It
in the
doesn't.
Discord.
I love that.
It's gonna be our new
If
favorite
you,
thing. We gotta make sure not to overdo it though.
I know. I do love that that they actually have that now. Now you're forced to laugh at my bad jokes, guys. There's a drum.
Oh
uh,
man.
yeah, for those who haven't been using Discord, the Discord just recently uploaded a soundboard, and you can upload your own songs or sounds bites to the soundboard if you want to, so you can play it through the Discord call. Except on the duck.
Also throws up a little graphic. So when I have the Discord screen showed up, you can see who's doing the soundboard. It's a pretty neat thing to play with. It needs more sounds.
It does.
It looks like you
Really.
could make your own. Oh, this is gonna
Yeah.
be. Oh, this is. Oh man. I can't.
Auga. That's
I
that one.
can't. Oh man, no, I want the Greta Thunberg. How dare you? That's my favorite soundbite.
uh, Actually, my favorite soundbite is Transformers when they're changing from
Well, that's a good
now
one
back to
too.
Transformers.
That's a
That's
that's a really good one. Or the '60s Batman. That's such a great transition sound. Oh man,
yes,
we're gonna have a
kids. It
whole
sounds
stream where we just talk about sound bites, sound clips.
yeah. They'll be like shit.
Welcome everybody
That
who's came in chat. Um, you guys didn't know we actually started the show before we started the show, but because I'm senile in my old age, took about 5 minutes to realize we weren't live. So, just a little self-deprecating confession to you all. That's why I was a little bit late. Yeah, because I was like, wait a second, it's not working. So that's why
I don't know why
RDV
you
had
use
to
the
crack the can because I cracked my can and I was like, what am I doing? I can't do it again.
yes, and also I don't know why you use self-deprecating. If you're doing that, I did not know that.
That's self-defecating.
Okay, it sounded like
Deprecating.
I
Oh
was
my
like
goodness.
that'd be a whole entire different stream.
Yes. Well, we are here tonight to talk about comics and hopefully not too much unrelated bullshit, but it always happens. We're gonna. So I stepped in the weeds a little bit tonight on Englantine's stream earlier. For those that are kind of a share, those were in both audience. Wait, those in the audience who watch both. I don't know how to say that right. If you cross over on the Venn diagram of people who watch Ash and watch Englantine, um, so I kind of set E off. I didn't mean to. So, but like as always, it can happen when you're not verbally, like you just typing things. People can, they can. misunderstand your tone or they read in tone, like however. And he thought I was chastising him. So I kind of wanted to take this as an opportunity to clear that up. Anyone that listened, I wasn't trying to chastise anyone, but he had asked a question about something relating to the start of the stream, and I just said like, hey, pro tip, like maybe don't do your initial topic immediately, like just whatever. I just and it ended up spiraling out of control, like people getting offended or what have you. And I was just like, hey, this is just me. Like I showed up 12 minutes after the stream started and the topic was already over. And he was, oh, I know what it was. Cause he was asking, what should we talk about? And I said, how about the main topic? And he's like, we already talked about that. And I was like, what? like the stream hasn't been going on hardly that long at all. But there's my tone of voice. And that's why I said pro tip. And, um, everyone do their stream however they want. Like it's his show. He wants to just start immediately and boom and go.
He's
I
starting on
just
time
know
for me.
I
He
just
started
noticed
at
that the notifications don't always go out like right away. It takes a little bit for people to roll in. And so I never know about the streams right away. And then he started getting kind of defensive of me, like, well, we always start at 9 o'clock. And I was like, no, you don't start at 9 o'clock. Like, there's a reason we call it England Standard Time. And then he made a comment about like, well, if you've not 9 o'clock, like 9:15, and I was like, that's when I showed up. I showed up at 9:15, and you were already done. So it's like by your own words, you're saying to show up at this time, and I'm like, but if you're already done, it'd be one thing if you're talking about the topic for an hour. But anyways, not to harp on him. I was just trying to. I care about his channel. That's why I hang out. And I want it to be good. Anyways, so if you were there and you heard that. And I don't know if you saw my typing or whatever, like I wasn't trying to antagonize or be a dick. Like my thing was like really just to like, here's an audience feedback, like how I feel watching your show. Being in the audience, why I'm sticking around. This is what I want to see. You can't see that when you're the guy like now about me behind the mic. I don't know what people are enjoying. Right? Like
yeah. As far as topics though, if he started at 9 o'clock, like he said, currently I heard he started right on time. He did that. Yeah, you as a person watching, you get the capability to rewind it and watch it from the beginning if you want to. If you missed it, I mean, I don't hold any. But I mean, as far as how long they have to talk about a certain subject, I
no,
always
no,
treat Monday nights as as an open mic.
you
So
absolutely can do that.
yeah,
But the part of the appeal of a live stream is to be live. Like if you're the audience, like the chat isn't talking about the beginning of the stream. They're talking about what's currently going on the stream. And like I said, it was just like feedback. It was just a tip. Like it wasn't me saying, "Hey, your stream sucks. Do it this way, bozo." Like I wasn't doing that. I was like, anyways, that's just where
I
I
don't
was
know.
coming from.
I don't know. He said he started at 9 o'clock, and I believe him. I showed up
No,
at
he
nine
did. He
fifteen.
did start at 9 o'clock. I
No, for
showed
me
up at
though.
9:15. Oh yeah, you were
Like I
making
said,
that joke.
I showed up at 9:15 for my time. uh, like I said, I do what he wants to do, talk how he wants to talk. I really don't care. Half the time, there's like 15 different like conversations going on that panel.
Anyways, the point isn't for me to mention now to try to say I'm right about things. My point now is more to
Well,
just
oh,
clarify that anyone who was there to hear now my
oh,
tone of voice, what my intentions were. You can judge me now how you want, but I was getting really frustrated because I was like, they were taking it like I was chastising, and I'm like, that's not what I was trying to do. But I guess I just have that way about myself. So I apologize if that's how anyone took it.
Maranya, rewinding decisions rewinding during a live stream is not an option because it's a losing game. At that point, if you miss the first 15 minutes and they're not talking about the subject, you can politely ask, or you can just go wait till the stream's over and then rewatch it from the beginning, see what you missed. That's what I do. Half times I don't show up for live streams. I mean, if I do, it's towards the end. So then I'll just watch the beginning later on at
Yeah,
night.
no, if I show up like an hour late
Yeah,
or whatever, like it was 12 minutes into the stream, and they're like, "What should we talk about?" I was like,
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know I don't know how long he talked about it. I was told 15, 20 minutes, whatever. I don't know. don't really care. We're talking about our stuff.
Right. No, again, my point isn't to try to say,
Yeah.
prove me right now. That's not what I'm saying. I just wanted to make
And
sure there was no more
I just
miscommunication.
assume
Anyways.
you're wrong on everything, just like you're wrong on George Lucas.
That's funny.
Oh man.
That's really funny. That's another inside joke for the comments on that stream. Uh,
People having
I,
conversations while it's
I
topics is changing.
I get accused of being like the big Avatar shill, James Cameron shill, but people don't know, like, I'm like much bigger George Lucas fan. Maybe not these days so much because of how things have gone, but my whole life, James Cameron hasn't compared to George Lucas. Like, I know quite a bit about Star Wars and stuff. I don't talk so much about it because there's so much divisiveness. Like, you open your mouth, you talk about any opinion, you're gonna lose. Unless you're in a channel of black pills and then you're jumping in and black pilling too, maybe then everyone's gonna be like, oh, okay. But if you have any opinion that's not part of the group think thing, like there's no win. Like, so it's tough. And I'm the kind of person that I really struggle to keep my mouth shut. So I do, but believe me,
Believe
I
me, I
keep my
know. You
mouth
can never get
shut
a word in.
way more than people think. Like, there's so much time I'm biting my tongue.
You hear what I said? I can never get a word in.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you while I was talking over you. Apologize.
It's okay. I'm used to that whenever I go on E streams.
Well, I really
I
do
just go
try
on
to.
there now. No. I'm just making a joke.
I
Like I
know.
said, I go on whenever I on Monday nights now. I've noticed that I just go on each channel, just throw up the logo for my channel. That's about it, and be quiet. Like Dominic.
Well, speaking of being
Poor Dom.
quiet, let's welcome to the channel all the people in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. I say this truly not as a simp. You guys are the reason why we do this. I don't make any
And I would
money. I don't aspire to make any money. I don't check my analytics to look at how many views I'm getting or anything. I just like talking comics, and I like most of the people in the chat. There's a certain frog that's a little iffy. I'm trying to get over with, but
well, like I said, I was there first. I waited at least 15 minutes. No one showed up, so
you can't.
first come, first serve.
Frogs can't be first. It's against the
Wow,
charter. You have to be human.
that's
It's first human.
that's race. That's wow.
Speciesist.
Then you know what? Then
I'm
then
not
the humans come
racist.
first. All right, then humans come before Navaris.
Vari.
Yes. If we're going by species, the humans are better, come before frogs.
So welcome Maranya, who is truly the first. Because I don't count myself either. I'm not being a hypocrite.
Well, she was born for me.
Hey,
Oh.
no, hey, I'm not associated with the comments of certain co-hosts.
Neither am I. That other guy, I don't know him.
Austin says the frog is right. How dare you, Austin, side against me? I thought we were pals, but apparently not. He's laughing because he says I'm the co-host. I am the co-host. I don't feel slighted being a co-host. This isn't a situation where like I'm Conan and he's Andy. Like I think this is like a team effort here. That's how I treat it, at
If
least.
that was the case, I'd be funnier than you.
Hey, Conan's pretty funny.
I love Andy though.
They're both funny. Like, but yeah, I mean, this isn't the Ash show. It's just on my channel. Let's see. Frog and Ash have a new toy. I'm scared. Yeah, you should be. It's taking a lot of resistance to not overdo it.
You know, I forgot about it until you read that comment.
Oh no, damn it. Ronnie says she prefers that this show is a bit random and build the audience up before the main topic is discussed. Well, thank you for that feedback, Marnia.
Well, yeah, we're gonna build them up before we let them down. Sorry.
You gotta have a little foreplay before you get to the finale. That's what I think. Right?
As long as somebody's happy.
Oh boy.
Virgo sent me a soundboard too. He sent me an old microphone. I have to hook it up.
Vanya says she tends to catch the replay if she misses the beginning. Which that's that's an honor. That's a kind of a comment that makes me actually feel really good. Not that I necessarily want anyone to have to catch the replay. I mean, we do this live because I want to make everyone a part of the show. It's not feasible that everyone's on a mic at the same time for obvious reasons, but I love the chat. We don't. There's a reason why we don't just pre-record something and then throw it out there. But it's really nice compliment when someone says like they come back and watch later, like they miss. Like I can't think of a
Mhm.
better compliment actually. Austin says you're currently being judged by me right now, Ash. Can you feel it through my text? Yikes, I do feel it through your text. Eric Marine is in the house. Hola el nerdos, he says. I didn't realize Eric could speak Spanish, but he is very, very versatile.
He's a good friendo who speaks Espanol. Oh no.
Ronnie says
Oh,
she made the suggestion to periodically refresh the title topic because people show up later in the show, or to
it
not
does.
start the main topic until the audience builds up. But what do you know?
Ironically, it does get refreshed because somebody complains we're not talking about the topic anymore. So it does. You don't have to refresh it. So I don't know. That's
Everyone's
why I
got to
said.
do things their own way. I just
Also,
if you're looking for if you solicit feedback, if you ask a question and someone gives it to you, and then you're bothered by the answer, I'll let you guys decide how you should feel about that.
I'll
you
just
know,
say this: if you want to do a topic thing, uh, okay, give 15 minutes each topic, and then at the end of the stream, you can always put you can put the timestamps, or you could just do it an offline video and upload it. Like I said,
Zach says,
that way
"Wow, we have
everyone
time boards. Like,
time boards.
rewind, take two. We have soundboards now," says Zach Richmond. Yes, Zach. We have replaced you with a soundboard.
Oh
So,
man, that's
what? It's true.
I'll never replace Zach with a soundboard.
Craig was the only one that didn't succumb to the woke virus. What? Who's Craig
Oh,
Burson?
he's talking about as far as the talk show host. Conan went woke after he kind of like went to TBS. He kind of
I don't remember
went away
that.
from.
I thought he was funniest on TBS. Like I never actually like watched his show. I always
The
watched like
but
the YouTube, like because they would take all the different skits and they would just
yeah,
compile
but
them.
what they're talking about is he started doing the Trump jokes.
Oh,
Only Trump jokes, nothing else.
I
He
don't think
wouldn't go
Trump
against.
jokes are woke. This is just my take. I just think that they're like lockstep liberal. Like I'm Democrat, so therefore I gotta hate the Republican guy. If it wasn't Trump, it would have been whoever else got. Like let's say who else was running for president? Who's that dude from Texas that everyone hates? The Hispanic guy. I'm
You talking
forgetting
about
his name. Cruz. Ted
Ted Cruz?
Cruz.
Yeah.
If Ted Cruz had won, he would have been public enemy number one. I mean, do we not have we have short memories? Remember when Bush was president and like that's all the left would do was pile on Bush. I mean, there's a reason why Obama got elected because they had made
Crazy.
Bush such an enemy, like, and that's just to me what I saw Conan doing was just the typical you gotta just attack the Republican guy, and Trump was the Republican guy. I don't think of that as woke. I think of woke as adopting
Well, when you
societal
go make
things like grooming
when you go make
children and
but
hyper
Ash,
feminism. Go ahead.
when you only make fun of one side, he's not making any Biden jokes or Obama jokes. It's all one sided. That's why I like Martin Short and Steve Martin.
Oh,
They
for
said
sure.
screw it. Yeah, they
It
made
was
fun of everybody
it
like
was
you're
for sure
supposed
one
to.
sided. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's but Conan still had his good stuff. But I mean, he wasn't like the '90s Conan like he was before. He got rejected for the what you want to call it, the chair Jay Leno seats. Yeah, that was. Oh, you remember that? Like they like the whole thing. We're gonna give you, and then they're like, no, we're gonna have Jay Leno come back. It's just like what an insult. Yeah,
Well, speaking of insults, no,
we
I
can't talk
lost it.
about Zach.
Oh, can't talk about Zach. What? I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
We don't insult Zach anymore. We simp for Zach.
exactly.
Zach is the best of the best, and you guys need to all show Zach your support. Please go watch his channel. Make sure you give him lots of likes. Um, he's
He might be right about the whole Michelle Pfeiffer thing
of
not being
course,
hot.
of course.
Oh, Liv Tyler being hotter than Jennifer Connelly? Oh my gosh.
Well,
I
that's one of
can't
the
do anymore.
reasons.
Oh god.
That's one of the reasons I follow Zach though, because he sets me straight. You know, I start thinking like, oh, I understand, and then I hear from Zach, and I'm like, oh, yep, no, what was I thinking? So,
Yeah, I can't do that. It's just too much. Hurts inside.
so, Austin says not everything is about you, Zach. Austin, I beg to disagree.
I
Everything
bet
is
you
about
think
Zach. Like
about me.
we have to just sometimes take a little bit of charity for the rest of us, because Zach really, I mean, it's a good thing that Zach isn't on the show. He didn't crash tonight because you and I would just take a back seat.
Yeah, I'm not puppeting. I don't take back seats to anybody. All right.
That went weird.
You make a backseat joke.
I was trying to play on the simping Zach, and
I,
you just
I
didn't back
can't.
me up.
I just well, I told you I can't do anymore.
Speaking
It's
of
like
geeky puppet
crazy.
show, what is it with you putting your avatar as the geeky puppet banner now? I need to
Oh, I
switch
got to
out
advertise
this.
my show.
This is your show too, man. Maybe I do need to replace you with Zach. Anyways, what is on your guys' minds? Speaking to you in the chat, anything going on in comics? We should, I was thinking when we start a new feature, we could comment on E show, whatever like E show talks about. Then we can sort of be like the commentary and whether we agree or disagree. Because you and I both typically miss a lot of that show. I guess if we miss it, then we won't know what they talked about.
I look at the topic and that's pretty much what I know about. As far as what they talk about, like tonight, I went grocery shopping instead. It's my Monday night's my grocery shopping night. So one night I'm
Okay.
not streaming. So like I said, I don't really pay attention to what he's talking about. Um, More so, it's like tonight was like Marvel 1000 or something like that. So I figured, oh, it's a rant stream. I don't know. Like I said, the guy does what he wants to do.
Oh yeah.
I hope all the well is right as far as that people tune in.
Oh
Um,
no, that's fine.
I
Like I just think that
I
sometimes.
like I said I like talking about comic books. That's what I like talking
So
about.
speaking of the
Crazy the books that
comics,
we
his
read.
topic tonight was about a comic book, so we can talk about it. I missed it, you missed it, so can't really comment on what E's stream was about because I don't know what they said. But let's give our thoughts. What do you think about Marvel Age 1000?
I didn't know there was even a comic book.
What?
What's on Marvel Age?
It's the 1000th issue. How can you not know? It's a huge milestone, Bankman.
All right. Who's the writer?
A bunch of people.
Yeah. Like I said, I have no idea. I don't pay attention to the ongoing Marvel kind of crappy books. The books I get are the throwback writers. I said because that's the only way you're going to survive over there is by reading the books that are actually written by people who are just good writers in general. But
Now that is fair, but the topic is what do you think about Marvel Age 1000?
I'm gonna tell you, it doesn't exist
Well, not yet.
because there's no books. Marvel's ended in 2012.
It's coming out in well, it doesn't say here on the League of Comic Geeks, but it's coming out in 2023. It says. So this book has only been around since the 80s, but for some reason, Marvel thinks that it deserves a 1000th issue. Apparently, there was only been 146 issues of Marvel Age. And the interesting thing about Marvel Age, for those of you that weren't around in the 80s when people actually cared about it, because there wasn't an internet and the Marvel Age was a magazine. It wasn't a comic book. It was Marvel putting out a magazine about their comic books.
It was a preview book.
Kinda, but it was more like a hype book, but in-house, like the way you remember Wizard magazine?
Yes.
So it was a cool thing. I liked Marvel Age. If I remember correctly, Breen might set me straight. Marvel Age was also really cheap, if I remember right. Like it didn't cost like the full price of a comic book, like 50 cents or something. But you'd get articles about upcoming books and all this different stuff. Marvel Age today wouldn't make sense because the internet just like no one would buy this unless you made it free. And then I guess
And
that's
it'd
not
be
really
an
buying it.
online it'd be the online newsletter.
So the whole idea of this Marvel Age 1000 is preposterous because number one, it's only been around since the 80s. It's not like it's been around as long as Action Comics. Number two, it wasn't a comic book. And number three, this issue is going to be a comic book. A $10 it's like it's not even going to be Marvel Age. Like what the You know what I'm saying? Like Marvel is really exploiting its fans here, I think. Really treating you like you're a moron. I
Well,
don't mean
yeah,
to insult anyone that's excited about this book. We all collect comics for different reasons, and if you want to get this book just because you love Marvel comics and you're just that's totally fine. I don't have a problem if anyone buying the things that they want to buy. Just know what it is. I don't want to see people
so
get exploited. Go ahead.
I don't think it's 1,000. I think it's actually posted Marvel $10 for the issue. They just forgot to put a period in there. No,
1,000
decimal point.
pennies.
It's gonna yeah. Instead of being 1,000, it's gonna be Marvel $10. It's a $10 issue.
That's hilarious.
Because there's no way it could even exist as a 1,000 issue. Like Zach saying, they're just slap 1,000 on there. Like, get this baby, it's good. It's like those memes. The guy slaps the car. You know, get this car, it's good. It's dumb.
Hold on, I'm taking a screenshot. Breen says Ash is right, and I need to save this for posterity. Go ahead.
You're better off just taking a shot.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I got some beer right here. Drinking some Evil Dead Red. That was another topic that was on the E show tonight. Was Evil Dead remakes, and I think you and I heard your comments, and I didn't really say much because you pretty much said everything exactly what I was going to say. Like Evil Dead without Ash, it's not Evil Dead. It's like Spider-Man without Peter Parker. Like,
Yep.
no, it's not Spider-Man.
I said that's why I haven't watched this new one, but at least in 2013 had its own version of Ash, which was based off a comic book version.
Yeah.
Loosely.
Yeah.
But
if you aren't going to
I
have,
mean,
go ahead.
Like I said, if you're not going to have another Bruce Campbell at this point, so you're better off doing horror. You can have a little bit of comedy if you want to, but like not to the point where you're just like, oh my god, it's just basically like a female version of Ash, stupid humor and stuff. It will never sell because Bruce Campbell is the one that sold it. He's the one that made it good. That people enjoyed it. His acting. As I said, if you don't want to do a reboot, if you want to do a female, like I said, you don't have to make it look. You can just make it a horror, straight up horror thing. You know. Or you can even, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I want another guy being Ash Williams and then trying to make it slapstick. I understood like as far as this one's like, oh, it's just gonna be like Evil Dead, the first one. where it was straight up horror. Friends go to cabin, and he has to take a hatchet and kill his friends, and his sister. Or the second one, because they lost rights, decided to make it Three Stooges, which I think and they basically got the gore and the comedy up, and that's what made it a hit. I said, trying to do anybody else without Ash Williams, or AKA Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams, it's not gonna fit with that kind of humor. So if they want to do horror, sure, but don't call it Evil Dead if you don't even have an Ash Williams, whether it's male or female, in it. It's not Evil Dead. It's just someone taking the Necronomicon. Like we've seen that book appear in other things outside of Evil Dead. So it's not exclusive to. People forget the Necronomicon is not exclusive to Evil Dead. It's been in other things.
The
It's just that
Necronomicon is a real book. So
yeah. So I mean, it's just their interpretation of it.
Right. They just used it. Actually, I think the Evil Dead version is like their own mythology, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis.
Yes.
Which,
yes.
Um, I agree. Like Evil Dead is one of those things that was never meant to really be a success. It succeeded because of the combined talents of Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. It was lightning in a bottle. It's just one of those things that you should never really remake without those the reason why it's beloved is those creators. It's not the property. The property just happened to be a vessel for those two talents. And if you're not going to
It's the
have
actor
them,
too. Yeah.
well, that's what I said, Bruce Campbell. Like
Yeah.
it without them, just move on to do something else. There are certain properties that are like that. There are other properties like in the stream someone had mentioned like Indiana Jones isn't necessarily have to be Harrison Ford, to which I agree. Now, it's certainly big shoes to fill trying to get someone who's going to live up to Harrison Ford, but I do think Indiana Jones is kind of like a James Bond type of franchise where you could reboot it, put in a new actor, tell new stories. And, just like James Bond, people are going to have their favorites, for decades. And even still, people say Sean Connery is the best James Bond because he was the original. And that would likely be the case with Indiana Jones as well. Oh, there's never going to be another. That's fine. You don't have to necessarily be the best. When Roger Moore came on the scene, all he had to do was be close enough, right? He didn't have to be better than Connery, just enough where the fans were like, well, he's no Connery, but it was still a pretty good movie. That's what you should shoot for. And I personally think that's my opinion. I didn't get to share it on the E-stream about Harrison Ford.
Well,
what do you think about that? Do you agree or disagree?
Here's the Ford. Yeah, like I said, as far as same thing with Connery and Roger Moore. Roger Moore was the pretty boy. That he's like basically what Pierce Brosnan wanted to be in his role. Where Sean Connery was the one that basically would get you in a fist fight. He's smart, intelligent. Wasn't was a ladies' man, but not as much as Roger Moore was. Roger Moore became a man whore. His version of fun. But we've had a young Indiana Jones before. Sean Patrick Flannery. Flannery. For those who don't know who he is, if you ever watched Boondock Saints, he's the brother, along with Norman Reedus.
When was he?
Like I said, you can do any period of Indiana Jones's life. There's so many stuff like that's never been told in the actual like movies, like the Atlantis. My thing is, if you're going to do Indiana Jones, it has to be in that time period. Is whether the 30s.
Yes, amen.
Yes,
that's what I'm afraid of
Yeah.
the most of this new movie is they're doing it in the 60s, like the late 60s. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like JFK is already dead, and that's when you're doing it. Like that's not gonna. It's gonna not feel like Indiana Jones.
It's gonna be unless you have some secret Nazi camp, that's going to go against them. That basically been in hiding this whole time, building the Fourth Reich.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, like Indiana Jones has always been him. Like it's like the Rocketeer, the same setting. You need to have that same.
Yeah, Rocketeer has to be in the 30s and 40s.
It wouldn't work anywhere else.
Right.
And I don't want as much as I don't want geriatric, Indiana Jones. Some people have said Chris Pratt, but I mean, like I looked at people like back in the day, like when they were doing the Rocketeer. That actor, he was a nobody. The one that played the Rocketeer, main guy. you can get anybody really to play the role of Indiana Jones. Is as long as but it has to be like if you're gonna do it though, it has to be someone we've never heard of, and it can't be one of these teeny bopper guys. Like it's like I don't want the Wookiee fans be like, oh, we want this person. This person's so woke. We want like let's throw Ezra Miller in there because he's awesome. No, I don't want that bullshit.
Well, I
Do
think
what
that
they
goes
used to
without
do.
saying.
They have to go back to what canon used to do. Remember, they went to the malls and they would cast people there. They held casting calls at the malls, and they go through, and that's how you got Dudikoff for American Ninja. You know, like I said, it was like they need to get some more fresh, different, like basically unheard of actors. And don't hire them based on what their virtue signaling is. Hire them based on their acting, their looks. Sorry, well, you could hire people based on their looks. Well, if you're casting for a certain part, we don't want someone who looks like they're pushing 60 and 400 pounds. Unless that's your role, you're going to do the whale or something like that. Something like that. If you want an action hero, they got to be in shape. Not this where they don't want to work out and they want you to cater the role to them. That's the problem I have using big actors, these name actors. They want you to cater to what they want. If anything, if they want to have a good venture story, I would use I know everybody says like as far as Chris Pratt because he's joking stuff. I think too many people would confuse him with it and be like, oh, it's basically Star Lord. It's a Star Lord in another movie.
I
That could
think
be a
the
problem, or
my problem with
or it could
Chris
be
Pratt is he kind of is pigeonholed into that, and I
yeah
think that's why
yeah
so many people want like Indiana Jones. I get it, but it's because but you don't want I don't want to see Chris Pratt like everything is just like the same type of role. That's one of the reasons I like his show, The Terminal List.
yeah.
He's so not Chris Pratt in that, and I'm like, ooh, I get to see him be something besides Star Lord. Awesome.
Like I would go out of the box. I'd be like Josh Hartnett. Like what? Josh Hartnett? Give him a shot. Who knows?
Uh,
Or like I said, get that kid that was an Iron Will. That actor. You know?
I don't know that kid. But I do agree with you on the whole like no names, especially on
Yeah.
big franchises like that. Because oftentimes the problems you run into when you get like a big actor and try to throw them into a big franchise is they start becoming bigger than the franchise, and then you get this whole thing where their contract negotiations become this big pain in the ass, and then they start holding the franchises at ransom. We're starting to see that in the MCU, right? And as much as we complain as fans about the MCU, and there's very good reason, part of it is like aspects of like, well, Robert Downey Jr. just doesn't want to do Iron Man anymore, you know? Same thing with Chris Evans doesn't want to do Captain America anymore. Scarlett Johansson is actively like telling Disney to F off. Like now they had a bad breakup, but be that as it may, when you
Yeah.
get big names in these type of roles, they think they're bigger than the franchise. And if you get a no name and you throw them in the role, they tend to respect it. Like Harrison Ford, for example. He never outshone Star Wars. And even when like Disney came back and was doing the Star Wars, he remembered like that's where his roots were. Like he would be nobody without George Lucas. As a matter of fact, like when he did Star Wars, he wasn't even supposed to be in the film. In his original casting call, well, in the casting sessions, he was only standing in to like give the other um what do you call it, auditioners someone to play against. He was a carpenter on the set, and it just so happened he had so much chemistry with the cast that Lucas was like, "I want you," and he didn't put an actor like Harrison Ford. He had done acting before, but that wasn't like he was kind of like one of those part-time actors, that couldn't support
Like
himself on acting.
I would be afraid they're throwing like someone like Tom Holland into it because he did Uncharted. People like that. So let's throw him into Indiana Jones,
No, that would
or
be
get some of these.
terrible because
Yeah,
again, Tom Holland is you would cast Tom Holland because he's Tom Holland, not because he's right for the role. And that's
yeah.
what I would say that they should avoid doing. Find someone that's going to embody that role, not have a huge name. You can get them in a long-term contract so that they're not being like, I want exorbitant amounts of money to do the sequel, and then they're like, then you have to say no, we're not going to give you that. And they're like, well, fine, I'm not going to come back. And then you get all this recasting bullshit, and everyone, the whole thing that happened with Iron Man 1 and 2, like the guy that played Rhodey, he wanted all this money to come back, and it was like, no, we're going to recast you, and then it's never good for the film.
I would have rather paid that guy than have the Don Cheadle. Sorry.
Well, it's easy to say when it's not your money. But
I'm just
from what I
saying, the
understand,
better
he
actor was
wanted.
Terrence Howard. Yeah.
Yeah, Terrence Howard was a better actor, but his role in the film was not that important, and Disney knew it, and they weren't going to give him Robert Downey Jr. money to be the sidekick, and he was
Ironically, though, the Don Cheadle got more money as the franchise went on, though, because he can make an important role. So
yes, and John
yeah.
Cheadle played ball, and sometimes you can get a lot more money when you're willing. Like Robert Downey Jr., he took the first movie really, really low.
Yeah. So people were saying Pedro Pascal because they love him in everything. This Roman Indiana Jones.
I don't love him in everything, and dude, Pedro Pascal is an example of what you don't want. Like he's part of the reason like Mandalorian is suffering, right? I don't want to be under the mask. It's like you mother effer. Like
yeah, actually, you just hear his voice, and we see someone who has more talent able to do stuff. Stuntman. I would actually get the stuntman. Forget all the Hollywood actors. Let the stuntmen actually give them a chance to do some acting.
well, there's a reason why they're stuntmen because they can't really act.
No, I don't think it's because of that. I think because they actually that we are so used to having these prima donna actors, so we don't hardly any new actors can come in and do stuff. The coming actors are stuck around and are still doing things. Big name actors.
A lot of that is the Hollywood paradigm. Is this idea that actors sell tickets, and they do. Actors sell tickets. You put a big name onto a movie, it gives that movie sort of like street cred. It gets audiences to give that movie a chance. You have a movie come out and it has a bunch of people you've never heard of. You don't have as much faith in the movie. Now, sometimes it's okay when the franchise is bigger than the actors. Like at this point, like MCU is so big. Same thing with like Star Wars. Those type of franchises, Lord of the Rings, like they're so big, you can throw a nobody in it, and fans are already like, I just love this franchise. I'm going to give it a chance. But when you just say, like, for example, a movie I'm really looking forward to is Zack Snyder's new movie. He's the guy, people know who Zack Snyder is. He did the DCEU. So it's kind of divisive, but he did 300. That's his big movie. Everyone knows 300. Most people like it. But he's got a new movie coming out I'm really excited for called Rebel Moon, which he is kind of associated with as his quote unquote Star Wars. So I take that to mean it's going to be a space opera, similar feel of like Star Wars, but different. And it's called Rebel Moon, which the first movie had a rebel moon. So I don't know what that alludes to. But anyways, I'm really excited for it. And but that's all that it is. Like you need audiences to see it. You better have some talent to get people to give it a chance. If he just throws a bunch of no names at it, if it's a big budget picture, I don't know what shot it has.
So the other hot name other than Chris Pratt is in Bradley Cooper.
I like Bradley Cooper, but not as Indiana Jones. I'm assuming that's what you're alluding to.
Well, that's what I'm talking about Indiana Jones. Like I said, I like Bradley Cooper as an actor. He does a lot of comedy stuff. He also does some serious stuff too. Obviously, you need an actor who doesn't try to steal the scene. It's just that he basically like Harrison Ford. Like I never look at Harrison Ford being a scene stealer.
Yeah,
he was just your average guy. He had the kind of like the "Are you kidding me?" Deliver. People.
Harrison Ford had, in my opinion, he had that Harrison Ford charisma, and I believe the reasons why people loved him as Indiana Jones, the character of Indiana Jones, is the same reason why people loved him as the character of Han Solo. Han Solo and Indiana Jones, character-wise, in their mannerisms and just their personality, were extremely similar. Like it was, they're almost. That's why I think Zach makes comments like, "Why don't you just use the guy that played young Harrison Ford, or sorry, young
Zach, other than Tom
Solo?"
Cruise, yeah, other than
Yeah,
Tom Cruise, name big actors that are doing their own stunts.
that was random.
No,
Um,
no, no. Because he called me out. He said like, "We talking about these actors. There's a lot of actors that do their own stunts." I said,
well, I mean, it's getting less and less common. Jackie Chan was really big for doing his own stunts. Um,
"Martial artists, yes."
it's difficult. It's difficult for actors to do their own stunts because of liability.
Well, the
If
companies,
you're
yeah, don't want them either.
if you're making a $200 million movie, the last thing you want is your actor going out and doing a stunt and possibly getting hurt and throwing
All right, all
the
right.
amount of money you could potentially lose. So a lot of it's not that they don't want it. Like the actors may want to do it, they're just not allowed to. It's a safety thing. Like they have to be protected because
Is Jet Li even acting anymore? That was a while ago when Jet Li was doing stuff. Chris Pratt, Keanu Reeves are current. Okay, that's two, other than
um
Tom Cruise.
few people. The reason why Tom Cruise gets away with it is because Tom Cruise executive produces his own stuff.
Dominic, what Jean-Claude Van Damme movie are you watching? Because he hasn't made any. Well, we're talking about current. I'm not talking about in the past 20 years.
Well, you really derailed that what we were talking about. Um,
Dominic. Yeah.
Eric
Sorry.
suggests a really good thing. He says, "Why not have Dylan Mulvaney as Indiana Jones?"
Well, you're that far back. Wow.
I'm not that far back. I was staying on the topic of Indiana Jones. You like threw a
Well,
curveball and started
well,
talking.
no, we are talking about that the Indiana Jones thing
You're talking
because
about
as I
doing your own
said,
stunts and arguing about Tom Cruise.
no, because it tied into what I said about before, as far as they don't. Because I said I would rather have a stunt actor or a stunt person play the role of Indiana Jones than have some of these guys who basically rely on all the stuntmen because the stuntmen are the ones who do all the actual cool moves you see on there. So
So I take it
Jamie,
you're on board with Dylan Mulvaney being the new Indiana Jones.
nah,
I'd be down for
no,
it.
no, 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 no.
Oh, come on.
I
Wouldn't it
want,
be
I
go
want.
down a blaze of glory? Can you imagine Disney doing that?
No, no, no. Dylan needs to be Marion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now maybe you're talking. Okay, he could be the love interest. Zach, with one of his greatest takes ever, says that Don Cheadle is better than Terrence Howard. Um, Ed says this thing was set for River Phoenix to play Indy now. Oh well, what could have been? Um, Austin saying something about Tom Holland. I can't read what he's saying. I'm gonna move on. Um, Zach says doing stunts isn't the same as acting. Sorta. I think acting is more than just reading lines. And I think the really good actors sell scenes by how they
I says
how
Hollywood favors actors in the versus stunt crew. Because stunt crew, their diamond doesn't. They can get another person to come in and just do the martial arts or the flips of that. Currently, that's how Hollywood looks at it. That's why I always like Jackie Chan back in the '80s and stuff.
I
Not
don't
only
think
did
they're a
he
dime a
help direct filming.
I don't think they're a dime a dozen so much as that they're not unique. For example, if your stunt guy gets injured, you can get a different stunt guy that doesn't have to look the same to do the stunt. But if Tom Cruise gets injured, you can't just put a different actor in the middle of the film and pass him off as Tom Cruise. So that's the difficulty. Um,
Why would I
er,
pass him off to Tom Cruise?
well, because he's
Well, if he's doing because they hide the face, But I'm saying as far as I would rather have a stunt person who actually knows how to do this stuff. May not be looking as handsome as Tom Cruise, we really know, but at least they're more believable to me.
well, as far as doing the physicality of the stunts, for sure,
Yeah,
and that's of course why they have their jobs. And obviously, like that's one of the things that makes Tom Cruise kind of special is when he does those stunts himself and you can get the camera right on him and you can see it's Tom Cruise doing it. They don't have to like hide things. It makes the scene better. I totally agree. I mean, it's just I'm recognizing also the difficulties of it. It's not so simple to just let an actor risk themselves because there's so much money involved in these big films.
Yeah,
And
I
also
know. That's the
and
other hurdle you can run into.
I've seen stuntmen try to make that transition and it almost never works because there's a reason why they're stuntmen. They like not everyone's born to be an actor. Um and it's a challenging thing. But yeah, if a stuntman can act, I don't think there's anything holding him back. I don't think Hollywood doesn't want a good actor who can do stunts. Like I don't think that it's you just got to prove yourself. Like I said, a lot of it has to do with just cred. You're a big name, you're popular, you can sell movie tickets. That's all they care about. As soon as you stop selling movie tickets, you're done. This is why actors come and go, you know?
Also, I want to point out that Daniel Craig does not do his own stunts; he has stunt doubles. So I don't know where you guys are getting this from.
Everyone has stunt doubles.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Tom Cruise has stunt doubles.
Exactly.
But when they say actors do their own stunts, it just means that some of the stunts were done by the actor. To the degree of amounts of stunts you did varies going to be
I would
by
say it's
production, actor by actor.
yeah, I would say Tom Cruise does more his own stunts than any other actor that's out there right now.
Yes.
The dude,
And
dude
he
jumping
does
out
like
of a
the
freaking crazy
yeah, he does the
things.
big stunts like climbing the Burj Khalifa and the new one that I don't know. I watched a little documentary making of the new Mission Impossible that's yet to come out, and apparently there's this big scene where he like jumps a motorcycle off a cliff, and they were like showing him like doing the rehearsal
Yeah,
stuff to do it, and I was like, geez, like
you know what? You know what? I love those stunts, but I just feel sad for those motorcycles. It's like this thinking like, ah, that's a nice motorcycle. Look at the General Lee. How many of those are destroyed?
right, yep,
Oh my gosh.
right. So Dominic says Chris Pratt can be a solid indie. And I want to wrap this whole indie talk up to move on to a different part by saying I mostly agree. I think lots of actors could possibly be indie, and I think the key would just be getting audiences to kind of accept a different take on the role. You can't go too far off, at least not initially, but it has to be kind of believable. I think Chris Pratt could. It would be a different kind of indie, but I think as long as the movie was good, audiences would accept it. I just personally wouldn't want Chris Pratt because, like I said, I feel like he's kind of getting
Yeah.
pigeonholed into this. Like
I,
any
you
kind of
know,
character that's similar to Indiana Jones, whether it's like Han Solo or anything like there's like Chris Pratt, and I'm like, let's slow down. Let's let Chris Pratt be something different for a change. You have the last
yeah,
comment.
I was gonna say as far as Chris Pratt goes, like I would just be too afraid that they would make it kind of like Guardians, him over too much comedy. Uh, where like I said, if you're gonna do comedy with Indiana Jones, it has to be situational comedy. Like say, where like the big open Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he basically he gets through there, and he finally grabs the thing. He's like, "Oh, fine." It goes sets the big stand out, and all of a sudden he starts shaking. He's like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Then he sees the boulder. He's like, "Oh crap! Oh crap! Oh crap!" It's just it's like that humor. Like that's enough. Like or he's being shot at. Like Indiana Jones 3 with his dad. The arguments, like there was humor, but it was subtle. It was more adventure, and that's what I want. I want more adventure, less humor. I don't want it to be like Guardians 4. You know, that level of humor
Right. And
can't be over the
I'm
top.
watching all the comments
I
roll
would,
in, and I have all this temptation to keep going with it, but
I would say go to what was that Magnificent Seven remake with Chris Pratt's in there, his character, his version. I would do where it was a less toned down. It wasn't really as much funny. You know, he was more of a serious character, and I guess I liked him in that. So I mean, I think he probably would be the most normal fit for this. But I still say like maybe try to get somebody who's new,
Hmm.
and don't be an ageist as far as going over like saying, oh, Hutchinson, whatever his name is, or Josh Harnett is over. And so that yeah, Zach said that about the earlier, and he's like, Josh Harnett is over. He has chance and over. I was like, dude, don't count him out. The guy took off like for whatever acting for a while and came back. You know, he's been slowly but surely getting steady roles.
I like Josh Hartnett, and I don't think
Yeah,
he should not do roles, but he's definitely one of those kind of actors that he's very special. Like he needs to be cast in the right role. Um, because
yeah, he has.
he's so easily
His,
cast in the wrong role. I'm like, oh, Josh, oh no.
speaking of his last role, what do you think of that?
What was his last one?
Operation Fortune.
I'm sorry, you cut out what?
Operation Fortune.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, he plays a American actor they use to basically to distract Hugh Grant, who's the mobster. So he's the honeypot, basically. Uh,
Is it worth seeing?
I thought it was really good.
Okay. All right. Now Zach has another amazing take. Like I said, all of Zach's takes are the best, and I can't wait. Zach, you really need to start a channel because your takes are so good. And he says that Guardians isn't just a comedy film. There you go. See.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. I disagree. I'd say it's more comedy than it is emotional. It's a roller coaster. But oh well,
Um, well, you're wrong. So I'm just gonna say that for
I'm not
Zach
wrong.
because I stand up for Zach. Stand for Zach. Hashtag stand with Zach.
Wow,
Um,
I would never side with Zach. You know why?
why?
You don't know why? Because we talk about it every night on the channel.
I don't know what sort of delusions and deceptions that you're trying to portray about Zach, who is one
You
of the
don't have to.
best.
You check out any of the readings over at the Hiki Puppet Show, which are on Friday nights and Sunday nights. You'll check out and you'll see in Zach his hot takes as far as when he talks about either
Zach's
whether the
takes are
hotness of
never
one
hot.
woman.
They're on point.
Uh, they're not on point.
He's
If they're well, they're on one point, and that's the point of the Fuhrer likes. It's yeah, he's Zach's not reliable unless it comes about things that he hates.
I have no idea what you're talking about. You must be thinking of a different Zach. Were you laughing when Star Lord's mom died?
His mom died. Oh, that scene right there. I was more laughing at the fact that they made his dad Eagle the Living Planet. Oh, when Drax talked about losing his family, every single freaking movie,
I
we
I
get it,
actually
Drax. You
I
lost your
actually did
family.
laugh when I laugh pretty much at everything Drax says. Like I think Drax is one of the most comedic characters of all. Like Dave Batista, like I feel bad because he's like, I want to go and do this, be a serious actor, and that's part of the reason why he doesn't want to do any more Guardians movies and all this stuff. And I'm like, look, more power to you. I don't want to hold you back, but you're there's a reason why you are getting the roles you're getting, right? There's a reason why Arnold Schwarzenegger got the roles he got, The Rock gets the roles that he gets. Like it's not because they were great thespians, Dave. Like, and I feel bad. Like I feel like he's gonna get stuck doing all these lame films because he's not the kind of person that can just step in and be a leading man. Um, but Drax, full credit, man, is one of the best in my opinion. His portrayal of that character, like he owns it. Um, I can't imagine anyone ever playing Drax again. Um, I don't know if that'll happen or not, but whew. And
He'll get, you know what's gonna happen? He's gonna get up getting the was it the Lobo treatment? They're gonna have this was never the real Drax. The Drax get the skinny guy to come in.
But it's not even necessarily his build that I think is what makes Drax great. Like, and he's not even accurate to comic book Drax, but I don't care because he is hilarious on screen. I just love Drax every minute. There's not a scene of Drax where I'm just like rolling my eyes, being like I just love the character. They just nailed it. Like they nailed Groot, they nailed Rocket Raccoon, and like I said, I don't mean nailed it like they got it perfectly like the comic books. I mean, like they
Yeah,
got it to where like I wouldn't change a thing, and there's no way I can imagine it being done different that would be better. Gamora is kind of vanilla, and as much as I love Pratt as Star Lord, I could see someone else coming in and doing an okay Star Lord. But those three characters, I just don't ever see being replaced in a different
yeah.
way. Now, fortunately,
Groot, I have no attachment to whatsoever. He's sinking new roots in my heart because Groot is one of the most dumb characters there is in the Marvel universe.
be that as it may, I just I just can't imagine them doing Groot differently. That would be like I just think that that's the only way I want to see Groot. Like I'm not saying he has to. He's not my favorite.
No,
I just
I'm
enjoy
just
him
saying.
being there.
Yeah, like I said, like Groot, all he is basically Rocket's like sidekick.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's definitely
Yeah,
a side role character. Like I wouldn't
yeah,
make him his own story. Like, but some characters are that's what they do. Like their purpose is
yeah.
just to be a side role, like a C3PO,
You,
R2D2. Like they're not meant
you
to
know,
have their own big stories. They're just meant to
now
fill those little pockets.
now that you said that on air, Disney Plus announced I Am Groot. 8 episodes.
Right? Right. All right. Speaking of I am Groot,
Groot and his family. I am Groot. No, I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot.
speaking of I
It's
am
gonna be like
Groot,
the holiday special. Sorry.
I'm switching over now to X-Men Extreme.
I'm glad you made the switch.
Extreme X-Men.
Thoughts on this series up until this issue?
Up until the issue.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm now you got me thinking like is there something different between this issue and the rest?
Well, you read all of them, right?
Yeah,
This is the final issue.
right.
So I said, yeah, as I said, like
Oh,
before
I
we
see
start.
because
Yeah.
you got me pulling up. Oh, I see. So my thoughts on this series up to this issue is pretty much the same as this issue. Um, I enjoyed it. It was really fun, kind of getting to read Claremont writing X-Men again. He's not the Claremont of old, but in some ways he also is. Like he's still the signature, like his style of writing comics. He writes. How do I say this? He writes comics like in a way that's like not real. Like characters, their dialogue is not real. It, but they just speak in ways that you're just like, that's not how people really talk. But for some reason, it just works. Um, and one of the things I was noticing about the story, even though I was like, this is not quite up to how it used to be, what I was enjoying about it was like, but it's still like classic comics. It's an adventure story. You got these characters that are like the good guys, and there's this nasty villain, and he's just pure nasty, and he's really powerful. He's kicking their asses all over the place. And this is a 5-issue series, which is kind of crappy. And all 5 issues is them basically battling this villain
Sure.
and trying to triumph against him. And it was it it wasn't deep and profound or anything like that, but it was just
No, no.
fun comics. It just reminded me of like that's what 80s comics used to be. And when I
For
say the
me,
term, hold on, let me if you don't
okay.
mind. Um, when I use the term mid, I don't actually mean it as a derogative. When I say the term mid, to me that's like baseline. If you're mid, Yes, that's not great. It's not even really good, but it's not bad. It's what you should strive at least to be. And the reason I think the 80s was so good for comics is because almost all the comics were at least mid. You didn't have to wade through a minefield of trash. You could pick up almost any comic and be guaranteed at least you'll get a mid experience, if not something better. And that's fine. Today we talk about it, and we live in a very polarized society. I think of it as the what I call the Amazon review society, where everything's 5 stars or 1 star, and there's no like middle ground. Either we love it, it's the best thing ever, or it's total shit. I would say this is like slightly above mid, but in a good way. Like it just was remembering, like, hey, this is a comic book for kids, telling about these fantastic characters fighting against powerful villains, and just letting itself have fun. And for that reason, that was kind of my take up to this point in the series. So go ahead and say what you were going to say.
For me, this is way above mid for me. This is at least 4 to 5 stars, depending on the issue. Reason being, because I'm seeing back the Gambit and Rogue speaking in their actual proper dialect, what they're written back in the day. With their accents, you can actually hear it when you read it. I love the fact that we're getting certain characters. Bishop is not being treated as a joke. Bishop is actually in here, along with Sage. Uh, you're seeing Rogue and Gambit as a happy couple. That's always a plus. It's not where she's basically he's being belittled by someone else, and then she's by not sticking up for him. Wolverine being Wolverine, we got 3 different villains here. We got 2 sub villains. Yes, I guess you'd say subplot villains. You have the main villain, uh, and then you also have this other Sentinel droid that's with this mysterious woman or girl. We don't know who he is, but she rebuilt one of them, and it takes away their powers. And so now they're basically trying to fight without their powers, going against this psychic entity that basically can possess anybody. He can't be killed. The return of Rachel Summers, Kitty Pryde was really cool in this. I love that. Overall, like I said, I just enjoyed the fact that these were X-Men being heroes again. My God, how long has it been since they were actually heroes instead of this being we hate all humans. Let's not work together. You know, current X-Men are they even X-Men anymore? They feel like I'm reading the Brotherhood. Um, like I said, overall, the art was awesome in here too. It's callback. I said, if you want to see Claremont writing the X Men his way, check out Extreme X Men. And you'll see, because this is basically a basic tie into that as well as tie into Claremont's story with the Kitty Pryde miniseries. With the main villain from that. Like overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this series. It's been a while since I've read a really good X Men series.
Well,
I
I can't
mean,
really
some of you guys
disagree
love
with
you like Hawks and Pox. I didn't care for that. This was
Hoxpox
cool.
was astounding. Hoxpox was way better than this. But I do, like I said, I love me some Claremont, and I just like the way there's something romanticized. There's something almost like stage play in his writing. If you've ever watched like a live, like a Broadway play or off Broadway play, there's something like where everyone's trying to be like Shakespeare. Like the way that they write dialogue for the actors and things. Like you go watch a play, the actors in these plays, they don't talk like people. They talk like characters in a play. And when you read X-Men, that's how Claremont writes. But for some reason it works. Like I got so used to it. It threw me off here only because the contrast of modern comics is so stark that I'm not used to it. But um I enjoy this book. And I think again, I just want to re-clarify like when I think of mid, I don't think of it as bad. People like disagreeing with me. Oh, it's not mid, and it's like, well, that might be because yours and my different definition of mid is different. I do think this is a little bit above mid, and when I say mid, I'm actually going back. Like my definition of mid hasn't changed over the years. So what Venkman said, I agree with. Like, it's better than most. Yes, there's a reason this is the only Marvel comic I'm buying. Like, I don't think it's mid. Mid's not like a curve for me. It doesn't change with the time. Most Marvel books would be lucky to be mid, right? Like, and you said that really something profound on the comments on, or no, when you were on X-Treme tonight, and you mentioned about Jed McKay and about how like the quality of comics has gone so far down that Jed McKay looks like a superstar. And I was like, little, in the background, I was doing a little golf clap because you nailed it. Like, and I think that's the same thing with this book. This book looks so amazing because I think I lost Discord. No, give me a second, folks. It's Comic Frog. Oh no. Fortunately, my computer is a lot faster than my old computer. I can boot this right back up. There we go. You're back.
Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still live. It just Discord crashed. Um,
All right. All
I
right.
don't know. I don't know why it does that. Like none of my other programs crash. There's something wrong with Discord. But um, so I'm just gonna keep going because I don't know what you
Yeah.
missed or not. But it went through the broadcast. Um, I think like what just to re-echo what I had said. You had said something really great about Jed McKay, and I agreed with about him standing out in the crowd because of today's standards. I think this book stands out in the crowd in much the same way. It's so much better than most anything else Marvel's doing that, of course, it's you would consider it way above that level of mid. But is this better than like what Dave Michelini was doing on Iron Man in the 80s? I think it's about on par. Um, so my mid
You
is
just
a
wouldn't
much
Brania.
higher bar. I know I'm going to upset Marania now. She's already cracking her knuckles. Um, but I don't say it out of disrespect. I think mid is what you should shoot for. It's being satisfactory. And I'd say this because I want to reserve praise, like extra high praise for the things that achieve it rarely. If everything is 5 stars, if 5 stars is like the average, then how do you rate something that is above average? You know,
Like
not
5 stars is the average show.
I just
I,
so I
yeah.
I'm very hard on my grades. I just want people to understand it. Obviously, you guys can like the book. I just want you to understand what I'm trying to say.
Get back to you when you start using the decimal point system like Frugal.
Oh, right. This is
You're
a
not hard at all.
7.23. Like,
I always, like I said, mid for me is like it's a comic book. It's there. I don't hate it. I don't love it. That's mid. And honestly, I felt much more connection to more emotion for this. This book. So the art, like so the personality, the characters, the fight scenes, the ending. Oh, once we get to the we'll talk about the book and I'll talk about the ending. But 1 through 4 set up pretty good. Kitty Pride was basically well, everyone lost their powers, and we next we see is Kitty Pryde just phasing, and she's stuck inside a block, So, basically a rock, boulder. So everybody thinks that she's dead. Meanwhile, a blizzard's basically going around and just wreaking havoc because Storm lost control of her powers, and we have these group called these they call themselves the Purity, the Purists. They hate mutants, and they want to basically they're basically want to kill them. They don't like them. And if you don't know, if you've ever read Extreme X-Men, Claremont basically made the X-Men. This is that because Charles Xavier's dead in this series, and basically, he basically turned them into like cops, global enforcers, as far as they go, and to try to help out cops where they need to be. They're marshals. Am I still here?
yeah.
And I'm just waiting for the stream. I don't know why it's for me. It's loading. Dot.
Oh, that's the Discord. It's my screen sharing is not working.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna. Oh,
Continue.
yeah. So I would strongly recommend people go read the Extreme X-Men run. It may not be as good as the John Byrne Claremont run, but like I said, he added the extreme to it, added the leather, changed the looks because he wanted to make it a little look cooler, and that was the big thing. Remember, until the X Men movie came out, you're like, oh, that looks horrible with all the black leather. um, Overall, and this is also the time in the books where Rogue does not have her powers. She still doesn't have power, so she's able to basically kiss Remy if she wants to. Like at this time, Remy had just kind of came back to life. Like I said, Sage. For those who don't know who Sage is, if you watch the series called The Gifted, or you've read the books here, Sage used to be the Black Queen, Hellfire Club. She basically can turn anything. She can connect with anything it's technology based. Her brain's like a living computer, and there we see right there in that first page there he's showing Ash. That's the Sentinel device. One of the last one. There's like apparently there was a bunch of them that their problem was basically to terminate the mutants. I think they're from the future. I'm not sure what exactly time period they're from, but overall, I love the lettering. I love the narration boxes. Um, the Ruka's art's great, and like I said, it's Marania. I know you didn't like the cover. You didn't like Rogue's pose. To me, Rogue's pose kind of looks like a J. Scott Campbell thing. She does look kind of, she kind of stands out there, but they're like, what the hell do we do with the Rogue though? Because they're like, we got everyone else doing awesome, and like, well, just have Rogue kind of stand out like that.
Yeah.
Because Rogue,
Go ahead.
that's Rogue wasn't part of the team, and this because she didn't have her immune abilities anymore. And Gambit kind of was. He was kind of on the X-Men and kind of not because he was living with the Rogue for a while. So I could be why, yeah, that's why she's dressed weird and she has the tattoos on her arm. You see that? So
Yeah, so this was a little bit, I don't want to say difficult. It was a little difficult.
if you're used to the original versions, yeah.
Well, I never read the original, the first Extreme X-Men.
Oh,
So
me
this is
neither.
pulling off the continuity of the original Extreme X-Men. So like I don't know why it's never mentioned why Rogue doesn't have her powers in this book.
Yeah, yeah.
She just doesn't have powers. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Very
So there's a
Gamma
lot of
originally lost
things
her. Yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of things in this book that happens that's kind of assuming like the reader will know. And so maybe that's why you liked it better than me because you had
Mhm.
read the previous Extreme X-Men, so this was a continuation. Like me, I'm kind of jumping on and I'm like, I don't understand why this is this or who this dumb robot is. I don't know who Sage is. Um Bishop was hardly used at all. Like he could have not been in this book and it would have made no difference.
True.
He's a wallflower. As a matter of fact, if any character had testicles and you were a good guy, you probably didn't get to do much. Gambit got the most play. Um, because like Chris Claremont loves Gambit, I guess. But
I do not.
um, I mean, I like Gambit too, but you know,
I like Kitty Pryde
Chris
though. Like it
Claremont
is.
created Gambit,
Yeah.
so unlike a lot of these other characters,
So
um,
I love this. The fact this will be taking place in a snowstorm, I'm getting like Jacques feelings. Snow
yeah, it was
Angels.
cool. It was cool. It was in a snowstorm. Um, I was forgiving of this book because of its comic. It very much wears its comic attributes on its sleeve. It's never once trying to make you feel like, oh, we're trying to be realistic and. But even then, I was kind of having to like suspend my disbelief really hardcore. I'm like, wait, Rogue has no powers, but yet she's whooping ass more than anybody.
She
Um,
still knows. She still knows how to fight. She was trained. So
True, but like even like she's whooping more ass than Wolverine, who did have powers. Like I'm like like she it was a little ridiculous. Like it was a little over the top. There's a scene where she's carrying Wolverine on her shoulders, and I'm like, dude, like Wolverine like weighs like 600 pounds. Like, how is she? I'm like, this is again, it's like one of those things like where basically women don't have any sort of strength deficits next to men. Like, but even a strong man would have a problem holding Wolverine up. It's one of those things where it's just like, nope, like we don't think about the physicality. If you're a hero, you can kick ass. Me, my lenses have been tinted by a lot of the politics that have invaded media over the past decade, and it's tough for me to like I said, to suspend my belief more. Um, Rachel Summers, I love. Well, my favorite thing about this book is Rachel Summers being used. She's one of my favorite X-Men. I don't particularly like how she was used. She's pretty much like almost the Deus Ex Machina at the end of the book, where she finally comes to and can put the bad guy down as Phoenix. Rachel Summers is super powerful. So it makes sense. Like the fact that she got her butt whooped at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is the girl that took on the Beyonder. like, um, okay, but she comes back with a vengeance at the end, and it makes sense. Like no one can beat this guy. Um, and I do love Rachel Summers, and I like the way Chris Claremont. It's like the old classic Rachel Summers. It's not the new like I'm Rachel Gray. I'm don't I use my father's name because I'm too feminist. Like I would just like they just ruin the character. So I'm like you. It's refreshing to see like the classic characters. I like that there's a Sentinel, even though it's not a Sentinel. I understand. I like that there's two villains essentially. You've got Orgun and then the Sentinel, and then by the way that you get to the end of the story, like they're not on the same side. It's like the X-Men find themselves fighting a battle on two fronts. They're fighting this Organ guy who's coming after Kitty, and then they also end up running across this Sentinel, and then they're having to like fight two battles at once. And then this Organ manages to possess the Sentinel
So
through ways that were really tenuous. like,
it was fun. It was funny that this all took place in Chicago. Too.
yeah.
I was like, yeah, Chicago needs the X-Men down there to clean up some
So,
crime.
um, but like the way that it tied together, so that the essentially Organ takes control of the Sentinel, and they have to fight. Claremont does like what he typically does. He builds these villains to be so powerful, that you really start feeling like, man, how are the heroes gonna like win the day? And it's not just Claremont. This is how comics used to be done. You'd put the heroes into these really difficult situations where you're like, I don't know how they're gonna be able to win. Like this doesn't, and then they manage to like pull it off, and that's great. Um, I've always subscribed to the idea that like a powerful villain just makes the heroes look stronger. So I hate this new modern era of comics where they just make the villains like cannon fodder all the time. Um, it's part of the reason why I hate the feminist comics. It's like, oh look, Captain Marvel slapped the shit out of some nobody again. Wow, she's so amazing and badass. She like barely broke a sweat. Like, oh my goodness, like it's not
Yeah,
exciting.
in this issue, or the this whole series, Rachel Summers was not prepared for this guy. Someone came out and then she kind of took her off guard.
Right. She
So
came she
now,
came into this
yeah.
like Rocky and Rocky 3. I got this Clubber Lang guy. He's no big deal. Smack. Just oh, yeah. Go ahead.
X-Men, you should be called X people. Women, we do all the work, and then she dies. Dark Phoenix. It's like they give her time when we'll make the snarky comment.
Well, speaking of
Rachel,
oh, go
but I
ahead.
like how
Finish.
this is an older version of these characters. Rachel, that's why Rachel is drawn looking older. Oh,
Right.
or same with Rogue. Rogue looks like she's basically been living down in Florida. It's, you know, Storm is still badass in this. I like this. Um, Wolverine kind of like he's fighting without his powers, even though he no longer has a healing factor. But as Organ says, now you're feeling the weight of all your adamantium. You can barely lift yourself.
That didn't
So
make sense to me. That was some of the things I was struggling with in this book, is some of the things that Claremont was writing. Like, wait a second, why Wolverine loses his mutant powers? His mutant powers weren't super strength. So the weight of his adamantium should have always been there. If anything, the whole thing about I almost feel like Claremont kind of forgot some of the lore. One of the reasons why Wolverine can even have an adamantium skeleton is because of his healing factor. They explain that in one of the comics. I don't know if it was Weapon X or whatever, but like the his your body needs your skeleton, right? Like your body needs like bone marrow and different things. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to have all the medical explanation for it, but I think most people with at least a high school education understand like your skeleton structure is more important than just like keeping your body upright. And Wolverine, by having his bones laced out of adamantium, it doesn't allow his system. It basically is constantly poisoning his system, but his healing factor fights against it, keeps him alive. So that's like the whole reason like why he can have it and like no one else really can. So if he loses his healing factor, the first thing I think of as a fan is like, oh shit, he's gonna start dying because his body's not healing. And instead, Claremont writes this whole thing about like his strength, like it's weighing him down, and I'm like, that's weird. And then the other thing he did was like when Kitty Pryde, so she loses her powers right as she's like underground, she's trying to get back to the surface, and she loses because the Sentinel does this pulse where it takes away the powers of everybody, and she doesn't make it to the surface, and all you see is her hand sticking out of the ground. And Aurora Storm goes freaking batshit crazy because she's like, she thinks Kitty's dead, so she goes into full on like Punisher mode, and all she wants is vengeance and stuff. Because, and I, as the reader, pretty much anyway, like, oh yeah, Kitty's dead, because we've seen, especially in modern X-Men, that's like how the modern Kitty Pryde kills people. She phases them, throws them into solid matter, and lets go, and then they unphase into the rock or whatever, and they're dead. And so she gets they defeat the Sentinel or whatever, and like everyone gets their powers back.
But her power, they described it, is that her basically she's constantly in a phase. Her natural state is being in a phase. Should she her so basically she's cursed. It's not really a mutant ability. She's just cursed. Always been in a constant state of being in phasing mode. So she has to concentrate just to basically to focus on being solid matter. She's
Yes.
basically otherwise just yeah. She says until
And that's the way the book
actual
that's the way the
yeah.
book explains it. But the reason, as I understand it, is going back to the Claremont X-Men days. During the mutant massacre, Kitty Pryde is one of the mutants that gets so injured. She's like on life support and all this stuff. I think it was Mutant Massacre. I might be confusing with a different event. She eventually heals, and she's again, but her power's like not in control, and she can't unphase, and she has to like be in this special support. Nightcrawler gets messed up too. A couple of the X-Men get really effed up for like long time in the comic books because of the Mutant Massacre. And I believe that that's this whole thing that he's referring to, of like that's her natural state. And I'm like, well, that's her natural state now because her powers got messed up from all the trauma, but it's still a power. She just doesn't control it in a way. Like, so if you lose your power, she shouldn't be able to phase at all. Like, anyways, it threw me off. It was really weird. Like I said, with the Wolverine thing, there were some other things where I was like, I'm not understanding this. Again,
So
does
maybe her
not
powers.
does
So
not
basically,
write
she
off
was
does hold on. It doesn't make me hate the book. I'm not trying to tell anyone this is a stupid book. Obviously, like Venkman doesn't even care. Like he just read it and loved it. Like, but I'm just saying from my experience as I was reading it, I was having to do like double takes and be like scratching my head. And it was those like things that you don't want to have when you're reading the book. Like it's better to just have a perfectly smooth experience and not be taken out of the immersion factor. So I'm just trying to be transparent. We're talking about it from like a critical view. I did
yeah.
enjoy the book. I do want to go back and read the original Extreme X-Men series because it's the same team. I enjoyed it enough. I would keep buying this book if it was still I actually lament that it's a mini series. Like I wish this were an ongoing. I started buying it for that reason because I thought it was an ongoing. So that's my biggest complaint, actually, that it's not continuing, and that's
Yeah.
actually a
So
praise.
I want to say my thought process I got around her keeping her powers, even though there's a pulse stuff, is that she was underground. So the pulse didn't penetrate to the rock. That's why
That
she's
would have been a
able to
cool
be.
explanation, but
Yeah,
they couldn't have done the whole
that's
thing. She's dead.
yeah. Well, if she's the only one who knows how her powers work and she didn't know either, whatever. I don't know. Like I said, I imagine there's something. It's been a while since the guy wrote these issues. I think the last one was like 2012 or I think 11, maybe even earlier than that.
Oh, the original
Uh,
Extreme X-Men was 20 years ago,
yeah, it wasn't the 90s. It was the 2000s. Yeah. So
early 2000, like
yeah,
2000.
yeah.
So it's crazy to think that that original Extreme X-Men was 20 years ago, and then the
40
X-Men
years.
that I love was like 10 to 20 years before that.
Yeah,
So
40 to 50 years ago for you. It's for your stuff. Overall, no, the ending is basically they end up defeating the villain, the Sentinel, the Oregon and the Sentinel by basically Katie Price says I can make you intangible too. And what we'll do is like your attacks are not gonna not hurt him. So basically we'll go inside and as we see her holding on to each other, and like they both got adamantium claws they got from Wolverine earlier in the original X-Men series, Extreme X-Men series, and they use that to basically strike the Sentinel while Kitty's also phasing them. So basically, they're gonna basically overload it from within. She says my phasing will mess it up more than you
yeah,
just
now
bombarding.
that is from the lore. Tehillim says Claremont screwed up Sentinel lore. I don't think Claremont screwed up Sentinel lore. And this particular scene that you're describing is in sync with the Sentinels. Always, like, whenever Kitty would phase through a Sentinel, she would, well, whenever she phased through electronics, period, her power wreaks havoc on electronics. And so that's essentially what you were just describing, is they phase into the Sentinel and mess it all up. What was really bothering me was that her ability to phase at all,
She says,
because
yeah, you're letting
not
ghosts.
only not only were you, now you're explaining, okay, it's her natural state, but then she could phase Aurora. So I'm like, you're using a power if you're phasing Aurora. Like, I didn't. It was weird, but it's
Well, at this point,
comics.
I think this point, they all got powers restored.
No,
So
not yet.
maybe.
Not yet. No, not until this. That's how they get the powers restored, is by shutting down the Sentinel.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. I don't
So
know.
if you hear
I
me
think she.
complaining, if you hear me being very critical, it's really because I hold Claremont to such a high degree. I have high expectations. He's not mid. Like, if this was Jason Aaron, I'd be like, oh my god, this is the best thing Jason Aaron ever wrote. Like,
If this was Jason Aaron, you'll never would even pick. You don't even be talking about him. You wouldn't even touched it.
probably not. But
But
um,
overall, like I said, the ending, the very ending part of this, when they're all just sitting around the bar, was kind of weird. But I love Sage here. Sage actually calms down the whole. She basically calls out the racists. He's like, you realize you're the people here chastising could be your neighbor, your wife, your child. It's like they view you to be a hypocrite and can say that we're obsolete, we're scum beneath you. Well, she said, you better check yourself because the next time you have a fire, this woman here who has abilities to put out fires, she's not gonna be there to save you, and your house is gonna burn down. So, but she said, like, she basically appealed to their nature, and like, it's basically what Charles Xavier would try to do. Um, this was weird though, seeing there's no Cyclops in this. So I forgot what happened to Cyclops as far as Extreme X-Men, but that was the other thing I noticed too. I was like, there's no Cyclops in this. Okay, but like I said, I mean, she even there with her rocket or two, and she still said she basically does the pacifist role where. I think Bishop even said he's like, he basically I just wanted to shoot some people. It's yeah.
this was my
Overall,
least.
yeah,
This was my least favorite scene, actually, in the
yeah.
whole book. It just came across too much like she just was like lecturing everybody. Um,
That's what she
it's not that
does.
she was wrong, like, she's right, but it just, the way that it was portrayed just came across. kind of cheesy. Like just a whole page of just her lecturing like their bigotry. And it just felt really on the nose. Like, oh, okay, well, oh, we'll listen to you. Oh, thanks for telling us like this. We realize how bad we are now. Like, it was a mob. Like mobs just lose.
But I am hopeful that there's gonna be a second series too, because at the end of this, we just saw that with the girl, the little black girl. She was basically the one that's been teaming up with the Sentinel. She's the one who's like, "Oh, those horrible people, X-Men, they destroyed you. Don't worry, I rebuilt you last time. I'll rebuild you again." But then it ends up here, and it's just like, "Uh oh, they're side by side. Greg Rucka, no." It's like, they're friends.
Yeah, see,
They're
I don't
not
even know who
lovers.
these characters are. There was
That's
a lot
that's
of that in this book of like expecting you
Rachel.
to just know.
Yeah, that's Rachel Kitty Pride, Wolverine, and Rogue down there.
Shut up. I'm talking about the two little girls that are spying.
Oh yeah, the two little girls were in the issues before. They were Gambit and Rogue rescued them in the woods, the jungle, or the we call it the
No, what I
park.
mean, okay, I guess what I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
is I know who they are like in the book. I just don't know, are they supposed to be important? Like
Well,
I
at the
know
end,
that I've
at
seen
the
their
end, yeah.
faces in the previous issues, but I don't know
No,
them
they're
as
no, they weren't
characters.
anything. They weren't anything before in the series. So what's going to
Okay.
happening is that it says and question mark, and it's I'm hopeful we're going to get some more Claremont Extreme X-Men or something down the line. What? Because there's supposed to be another Storm book, but I don't think it's Claremont writing it though, which sucks.
Yeah, it's Ann Nesenti.
So
Well, Ann Nesenti was the editor of X-Men during this time. It's a story that takes place around X-Men 176. Um, so
so I might check that out because it's a throwback.
yeah, if you like this and you like the previous, like I really urge you sometime. I know you've got a ton of other things that are on your plate to read, but I like really urge you to like maybe this book. Like if you read this book and you like it, pick up Uncanny X-Men 176 and just start from there. Because if you like these stories, this is what Claremont did
Yeah.
like all the time. Um, and I know you like good-looking girls, and when Silvestri takes over the comic, he's he draws hot women, and Jim Lee drew. I mean, there's a reason why they started doing swimsuit issues when Jim Lee took over, but um, yeah, I mean,
There
and you
was
get the same, I think, even better level of storytelling. Um, and it was such a great, like such a saga. Claremont had that ability to just tell like years and years of story as like this one massive saga. Um, where here it was just like one villain fight, the end. This to me, that's not what Claremont's strength is. Um, but
no for me. There was one when I read the Gambit. There was one I was getting into reading. They have it here. Uncanny X-Men 248, and then going through the 267. You know, like I said, I love the whole thing about the Gambit story, which I don't know if you read that at all. That was the other
mm-mm.
Claremont one before this. I was kind of wondering if they're going to tie it in or not, but it was basically when Storm was a kid, was turned in by the nanny, turned into a little kid again, and here's supposed to the whole Gambit miniseries he did last year was supposed to be about Gambit basically traveling with Rogue, or not Rogue, but Storm, and Storm relearning how to actually use her powers, connecting with her ancestors with the powers before her.
There is one. I don't want to say major, but it was a big gripe that I had in this book, and it was like really just ticking me off every time I saw it. For whatever reason, Chris Claremont was not calling them the X-Men. Throughout the book, you would be like, they would call themselves like the X-Team or We X-Folk. Um, yeah, like here on the second panel, we find the X-Team. Like they weren't. I was like, and there was one point they just call him X or X. Like I was like, what? And it just felt really weird to hear these characters that
Yeah,
I've read for decades calling themselves everything but X-Men.
yeah. I have to go back and look to see if there's an explanation in the original series, or if that was actually part of the editors, current Marvel editors, saying you can't call them X Men, call them X Team.
They don't do that in the actual X-Men books. I'm just wondering if
But
this is part of the like a symptom of Claremont's kind of becoming more woke over the years than
maybe.
he was, and just now being like if he like personally agree like yeah they're not really X-Men, that's kind of problematic now, so he like secretly sympathizes and doesn't want to call him X-Men, so he's kind of coming up with his own way. The book never preaches like wokeism at you, but it definitely feels like Claremont is uh, like he's like Claremont's a feminist. That's what I would say. It doesn't. There's no preachiness, but it has those attributes that you're like, okay, here's a guy who I imagine who has feminist ideology would they would write it just to be. I don't know. Like I said, it doesn't ruin anything. It just every time I would see that, I was like, wait, what? What are you calling yourself X Team? That just sounds dumb. But anyways, any other final thoughts? And did you guys in the
Uh,
chat? Anyone else read this? Like, I'd love to hear what your thoughts were. Like I said, I do think this was fun. I would recommend it. I would read more of it. I don't think it was perfect, but this is the way comics used to be. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't know how many people actually read this series or even read the Extreme X Men. Like I said, I would love to do retrospectives on the Extreme X Men with you,
Okay,
since
that's
it's be
something
first time reading it.
that might
We
be a
did the boys,
possibility.
but I think the Extreme X Men might have over, I think over 140
No,
issues.
no, I only think it went like 40 something issues.
I don't know. Extreme X Men 2001. I'm looking up right now. 100. Actually, okay, great, right. 46 issues. It's up to you. I'm not to do all of them, but I know you and as far as Skip and Zach have been covering some Hickman stuff. I would say do the Claremont stuff. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, there was a reason. Well, I guess I wasn't really in comics when Extreme X-Men came out. I remember
No, and
hearing
remember
about
you
it,
told.
but
Yeah,
I
I remember
kind of
you told me.
lost like Claremont like lost something for me when he left X-Men. Um,
Like, like for you, I remember you telling me when Claremont came back on, or like, you haven't gotten back to the comic books, but you saw like, oh, Claremont come out, oh, this looks stupid, compared to like you like normal Claremont, so you kind of poo-pooed it a little bit.
well, I like the old Claremont, but I also really understand like I've read Claremont do short stuff and it's not as good. Like he really thrives when he's able to build out this long saga and have all these like subplots hanging and coming back to, and characters are going through these long arcs. And like I said, my favorite era when I got into comics, like the Mutant Massacre started up shortly thereafter, and you'd watch like these X-Men get injured and everything, and they'd be out for like a year or two in real time, and just you just went through these journeys with these characters, and you just can't do that in a 5-issue miniseries. Um,
Oh
you,
yeah, yeah. So I agree with you. So I mean, like I said, like 48, 50. That's pretty much average length of now of creators now. If you can get them to 50 issues.
oh yeah,
Nowadays they don't even really want to do that anymore. At least DC doesn't.
even if they
I'll
want to
be,
do it, the publishers take them off, right?
yep, yep. Look at Jurgens. Jurgens is the last one to get to 50 issues. Like,
No, Josh Williamson did like 100 issue run on Flash.
you sure? Because I know they skipped a few numbers when they
No,
did the
Josh
legacy.
Williamson, he started in 2016 on Flash, and he did like 100 issues before they swapped, got him off, and eventually ended up to Jeremy Adams. I forget who was in between.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I think Jurgens. Trying to think, because the last one that reached the 50 issues and get canceled, let's say, would be Jen Jurgens on Batman Beyond.
Hmm.
Uh, Same
I
with
mean,
I
Tom
did
King
Hawk.
did like 85 issues of Batman.
Yeah,
They
Tom
had to
King.
pull
Yes, I
him
mean,
off. He was supposed to do 100. It's like, ugh.
yeah. Trying to think who else was it. Did Hawkman? Did he get 50 issues?
No, he did like 28 when they got canceled. I forget exactly how many issues it was. Around 28, I think.
Probably like 25, 26. 20, probably 25 plus an annual. But anyway, let's get on to some Tony Fleeks and Tim Seeley. You're like, what?
Uh,
Tim Seeley on what?
Local
You know,
man.
brought to you by Skip and Tosh. I recommended this book.
Ronnie says she hates to miss the next book, but she's getting sleepy. She'll definitely catch in the replay. All right, Maranya. I'm used to her staying up later. Um, have a good night. And thanks for watching. Good to see you as always. Now, Local Man is. I'll try not to spend too long on this one.
No,
This is a
really
good.
fast.
This was a book that I had no interest because I saw Tim Seeley and I pretty much avoid
You're
whatever
me.
Tim Seeley is involved. I do like Tony Fleeks. For those of you who might not be familiar with Tony Fleeks, he was the one that did that Stray Dogs Independence book that got all the rave. It's one that like looks like a Disney film. It's like a bunch of
Yeah.
dogs, but it's like a murder mystery.
So Seeley does the main stories throughout these issues, and then the backup story is done by Tony Fleeks, I believe, right?
Um, let's see. I think the way the credits are here, it says it's created and written by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleeks, and then Tony Fleeks does the art in the Farmington stuff, which is the main this storyline here that it starts off.
Or they
And
have two,
the
or they have
third
two
gen
artists.
art is Tim Seeley, which is the art that you see in the billboard, which is like the 90s Rob Liefeld looking kind of stuff. But they're both credited as co-writers. So I don't know
Yes.
who did the writing on what.
Yeah. I think it shows when you get to the end of the issue, like, and then it goes like, oh, here's like anyway. So I want to this book when it first glance at it is it basically looks like a book. Now this it's like an older Hawk. For me, what I describe it as like an older Hawk or you know Oliver Queen coming back. 20 years. It's been a while since he's been a hero. Like, and obviously the heroes were dressed like the '90s. You know, like we saw like with Justice League or the Avengers, and now it's supposed to be like all these years later. So
This was an interesting book. I'm glad I read both issues because I didn't really like the first issue.
yeah, you
And it wasn't
basically
this it
yeah,
wasn't so much because the issue was like a bad book or anything, but the way these characters were written, I just didn't like anyone. They wrote
well,
everyone as kind of like an asshole.
pretty
And
much
I
to
just
him, yeah.
and I didn't understand why. I still don't feel like I understand completely why, but they're like written like assholes to like the nth degree. So we get this character like he shows up in this town. He's at this bus stop which isn't even used anymore. It just hasn't been taken down. He calls an Uber and the guy
Yes,
that shows up is like, "Oh, you're that asshole Crossjack." And he's like, "Yeah." and he just like takes off, and he's just like, well, it's cool, I'll just get another one. And they're like, oh, there isn't anymore, huh? Fuck you, and just I just was like, man, okay, so maybe that guy was just an asshole. Then he gets home, so he walks into town because he can't. There's no way to get a ride. And it's like, dude was stuck outside of town, had to walk all the way, and all his dad can do is be like, "You're late for dinner," like like just a total prick.
Yeah, he
Not
says
now,
that. Yeah,
mind you, not such a prick that he won't let him stay there because he's moving back home. So like they're giving him a place to stay, but will not show him any sort of common decency or dignity.
and all we know is basically in the first issue is that the just Quinjet basically like whatever you call it, basically dropped them off, left them there, and everybody knows he's cross-sex basically as a public identity. So and the one guy didn't like him, drove off without him, and then his parents look almost like they're ashamed of him. We don't know what what it is, why they're being such dicks to him. At this point we don't know what he did. All we know is that he's basically uh, a superhero that's going home.
Right. Now, my thing though
Just
is like, what could he have done? Because
yes,
I'm reading this going, did he murder someone? Because
he'd be in
clearly,
jail.
whatever shame that he did, you're still willing to like give him lodging under your roof. Like, it's not so
Mm-hmm.
much like take a hike, we don't want anything to do with you, but oh, while you're here, we're gonna treat you like total shit. Like, I
Good.
just was
You see her
weird to me.
prayer. Did you see her prayers? That's how
Yeah.
you knew right away. She's like, and forget and bless our son, help him find peace, and forgive him, O Lord, for bringing disgrace upon our family. Amen. He's like, what the, you know? Like his like were his parents the kind that only liked him because he was doing good stuff, but if and then something bad happens, they turn on him. Like they're ashamed of him because now it makes them look bad. Like what shitty parents, man.
And it
Like
makes Christians look bad, and so
dude,
now
yeah, yeah.
I'm reading this from the lens of a Christian, going, oh look, yeah, so the writers of this
It,
book
it
disrespect
also
Christians.
it is Tim Seeley writing though.
Um,
It's a,
so
a
we get this one hint about like it's like, oh, the whole town knows, and we get this flashback scene where he's eyeballing. So this character on the right with the Rob Liefeld looking helmet thing
him.
that's him, Crossjack. Um,
There's a girl
so
kind of
apparently
flirting him.
apparently he had an affair with the girl or whatever, and it was scandalous. Again, though, these people are such assholes that I'm like, they might look at him cross-eyed and just be like, dude, that's a screwed up thing to do. But are they really like at the same time that there are these huge assholes and just like totally inhuman, are they also like super Puritans and like sleeping
Well,
around is so bad that you must be purged
so
from society?
this is why I want to look at this because remember we've read The Boys. We saw how the seven were viewed by the public. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, maybe these heroes are viewed as being pure Avengers. No, no, and what he maybe as far as they don't know that he had an affair with anybody. They could have made up anything. You know, and just to make him look bad.
All I
So
know is I just hate the people in this book.
yeah,
Except
yeah.
for
So far,
Crossjack. I don't hate Crossjack. I feel like this
yeah.
guy, like I legitimately feel like this guy's walking around with a shame. He's done something he's not proud of. He feels bad about it. He wants to try to, I don't know, find some sort of redemption or whatever. And we get this dialogue scene here where the mom's like, "Did you know who liked to eat late?" And he's like, "Ah, Jesus, I'm crying. I'm going out." And then his dad's like, "You know why everyone's mad at you, Jack? Why is that, Dad? Fill me in. Because we gave you something. We don't even know how we did it, but something special. And this is what you did with it." And it's like, so basically they're mad at him because he didn't save the world enough. We get a mention in the story that he like here, very next panel. He saved the world from this Malebolgia character. So here we have a character, essentially, let's use the MCU as an example. You defeated Thanos. You're part of the Avengers. You defeated Thanos.
Yeah,
And then you come home and the whole world wants to send you to hell because you slept with someone, like you committed adultery.
It's like
Now,
hogtie.
adultery is bad, right? Right, and you
Well,
should be shamed for it. But
but
if you just saved the entire human race and then you committed adultery, I would be, yeah, yeah, you did something really bad.
to
But
be
thank you
fair
for
though,
saving us.
we don't know what the public knows. Though all they know is that they don't like him for some reason. We don't know what the main reason is. We know that he winked at a girl. You know, maybe he had relations with her, but we don't know what was said, what the public knows about him. You know, you can
It's
make
true.
anybody look like a villain.
That's true.
Yeah,
I think there's something bigger going on, which if you're hearing my complaints and stuff, I'm trying to give them in the order, like as I was reading the book, how I was
yeah,
feeling, because it did change over time. We get introduced to this character Hodag, which is kind of like Crossjack's personal villain, which
yeah.
I found was really neat. I one thing I liked about this book was that it's kind of a play off of comic book. How do I say, like, tropes, right? Like
Yep.
everyone's got their own rogue gallery. Even if you're part of the Avengers, but Captain America still got his personal villains. Iron Man's got his personal villains. It's kind of same here. So this is like Crossjack's personal villain.
Take your
Uh,
Cookie Monster ass with you.
and so he's just like, "Whoa, hey, everybody, be cool!" And this guy like charges him, and he picks up a trash can lid and fights the dude off. And then this is where you kind of get the hint that something bigger is at play here. And it's almost like the way I love the way the panels are drawn, like in the different art, because it's almost like Crossjack is not seeing reality. Like he's seeing it through the lens of himself. But what's really happening is something different entirely, and it's almost like when you see the different panels, it's like, yeah, it's like there's
Confused,
two
like,
different
yeah.
realities. There's like what he sees and what's really happening. And you get this impression when you like look when you actually see Crossjack's face here in the last panel, it's like an old man. And
Like, he
he's
just wanted
he's
to talk to you.
he's
He's
like,
like,
I
you're
just
beating me
yeah.
up.
And then he gets thrown out of the bar, and he ends up meeting with an old flame,
Yep, ex
this
girlfriend.
Inga
He's married.
girl,
Yep.
and we get third gen, which is the name of the basically the Avengers, showing up, and then they serve him with a cease and desist, kind of like, um, and they're basically saying like, all violations include to your contract, including solving crimes, battling superhuman villains, non-superhuman villains, or engaging in large-scale events against cosmic or otherwise infinitely powerful beings. Um, and he's like,
Yeah,
ah,
like,
geez,
they
I'm not
only
even supposed to
they o
rescue kittens out of a tree. Like,
yeah.
he's not allowed to do
They
anything heroic.
Yeah, because they basically own his basically his identity is copyrighted, you know. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking like this is where I get the Seven vibes right here. The way
Mm-hmm.
they come down and tell him you're not allowed to do this and this, and it's like what and like okay, why are they doing this? If he was such a threat, if he did something bad, he would be in jail. He'd be a villain, you know? That's what I'm thinking. Like at this point, I'm like, he got sideroaded, or what do you call it? Yes, they basically railroaded him, And I'm thinking at this point, what did he do that was that bad? Were they into something bad? Were they even just villain or heroes? Maybe they're heroes that aren't really up and up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and it just gets the plot just gets thicker because now he's got his ex girlfriend who's basically she's somehow she's married stuff and he kind of kid stuff he's like and she's like you want to ride it's like it's dark he's like no I'm not good because he doesn't want to get involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we see Hodog who's in the jail cell kind of sleeping it off. You see him walking and then he Hodog gets murdered, but we also get to see something rustling by him. He's like what the heck's following him and he throws a dart and of course it's the dog because it's Tony Fleek's writing and there's gonna be a dog in here. That's what I thought it too. And what he actually hit was the thing that's following him. See, the
Yep.
service droid. Yeah,
And he's like, you're
it's like a
lucky I missed.
yeah.
I never miss anything. And then we get to
And
see
then
Hodag's been murdered in his jail cell.
it's like,
And
and it looks bad because it looks like he's basically been set up for a murder because he has no alibi. Because while he walked away, he could have went and used one of the jail cell and killed him after seeing the fight. It's like somebody really does not want him around, but they
right.
can't bump him off. That's my say. Like that's what hooked me in the first issue. And now here's the second story. This is a
So
flashback to the team up. This is where it's what literally leads me into believing that they're basically like corrupt. How they handle people. They're very aggressive. But I'll continue.
oh no, I
Um,
was just gonna say kind of what you were saying, but this, yeah, the backup story. I'm not 100% sure if this is supposed to be like how in The Boys you had the characters like in the real, and then you had the characters that were written in the comics of the real characters. And I was like, so is this supposed to be like the comic adventures of these characters in this world? Or is this supposed to actually just be a flash, like an actual just flashback?
I think the flashback
Because
because
at the
because
end,
the way he acts.
well, at the end, they like write it like it's a comic. So like, next issue, who are the fourth gen? Be here for Gen Academy.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
but
I
it's not the end of this. It's not for this book. It's actually for that panel because you can see it keeps on going. It's like here's more of that book. So so there's the character Neon that presumably he had an affair with, and this is another thing that made me
her
roll
husband
my
Camo.
eyes.
Yeah,
Roll my eyes. So yeah, and then me, I'm the God-blessed Cameron Crusader, chosen as the savior of Christian morality and the right to bear arms. And I couldn't roll my eyes any harder when I read that. I was like,
yeah, I know.
uh, on one hand, I think it's kind of funny, but it immediately became apparent, and maybe I'm wrong, but it immediately seems to be apparent that this is the bad guy, right? Like the reason, because guess who he's dating? Neon, who's the guy that he had an affair with. Neon, like, you
This
know,
girl,
right.
wife. Yeah,
Um,
whatever. And
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 I'm
I'm
just
just
like,
thinking like,
oh, so the Christian conservative white guy is the bad guy. Oh, I'm so shocked. Only thing you could do better is maybe give him a Trump face.
well,
Um,
he's next issue. He has a Trump hat. No. I'm I get a feeling though they want you to believe that if this is a good
if
story,
that's a
they'll set you
misdirect,
him.
that will be fantastic. Like
Yes,
I will applaud them if it's a misdirect. Um,
but I just like the callback to like in this a different heroes like the girl I forgot what her name is, but she's up there on the and she could turn herself into like a mist or gas. The white girl up there in the white,
Neon,
not Neon, the other girl on the team.
the other girl's softcore.
Or Sasha, I can't remember what her name was. Sorry.
No, she's coated in a she's a stripper.
I
Softcore
know.
says like, softcore went from gyrating provocatively in music videos to heeding the call to action when an industrial accident coated her skin in an impenetrable polymer. So her whole body is covered in this impenetrable. So she's naked. She's coated
Yes.
in this impenetrable polymer. All right, and yeah, these
A little
characters are
hot
like
mother.
ultra ridiculous, like '90s,
That's
like
I
in
like it.
like
90s.
yeah, no, but I mean like the image. Like the air raider was an Air Force pilot shot down by Russian MiGs who survived by fusing himself with his plane. Like,
Yeah, he's like Iron Man. Or no, he reminds you of Jetpack or not? What was the guy name? What the guy from The Boys?
oh yeah, yeah. I forget his the Batman ripoff, but
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
kind of like a Batman Iron Man ripoff.
it was Tech something, wasn't it?
Tech,
Tech
yeah,
Jackets,
Tech Knight,
Tech Knight. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's
When I
funny.
see some of these heroes, it's like what?
But also, I
And
mean,
then
clearly, look at this. Like, they're totally. This is like Rob
Captain America.
Liefeld. This is
Well,
such like intentionally
yeah, sure.
copying Rob Liefeld.
And the guy you're looking up there, especially cross-check, his character design, everything was basically looks like Maverick from the '90s in the X-Men.
You think he looks like
He's
Maverick?
part
I didn't think he looked like Maverick at all.
Maverick from the Weapon X program. Yeah,
Huh.
this is the game again, Captain America shield. But anyway, though, it's I lived it was the silliest, stupid character design. So
Love this cover.
yeah,
Enter Pepper.
I funny fleeks.
Yeah, it's a total Fleeks cover. Even though it's a Sealy Druid, but
Yeah,
um, let me.
it's probably his home. Yeah, he's probably homage to it. You know, hey,
So here's the thumbnail for tonight, which I thought was a good cover. And so in this issue, he's back at his home, sleeping on a
yeah,
couch in the basement. Dog wakes him up. The cops show up, and they're arresting him because they suspect him for the murder of Hodag. And ironically, the way he gets out of this is because the sheriff, or it's not the sheriff, the chief of police or whatever, his wife is none other than what's her name? The girl
Inga.
Inga. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
she was with him at the diner when this happened.
so he had an
Apparently,
alibi. So he gets out of it. He manages
and
to. Go ahead.
so real quickly, he says like your wife is like, oh, your wife didn't tell you that, did she? Yeah. All right. So yeah. So obviously, this is leading him up to basically he's like wants to eventually he's gonna basically investigate the mystery who killed Hodag, even though he's not supposed to. But I do like it's like there's the Uber guy again. It's like
This time, at least
it's
he got a
raining.
ride. I don't know how he got the ride this time, but he gets dropped off. And then he's like, fuck Crosscheck, drives off.
It's
Now, see, this came
like
off as more comedic.
yeah.
Where in the first issue, I was like, man, everyone's just a freaking asshole. And as I was reading this issue, I was like, I think in the first issue, the writers were thinking they were being funny. And I wasn't interpreting it as funny because I didn't understand what their intentions were. So I just read it kind of
Does
like how
that
we
make
started tonight, where I was like, I was on
yeah,
E-Stream, I was doing the apologies because I was like, when you're just reading text, you put the tone in. But now that I know kind of what's going on and things like, I'm like, oh, this is just kind of like dark humor. I see it in a different tone. This
yeah.
worked for me where the first issue didn't. So the robot is still following him around.
And then he tells
Um,
them basically it's like, it's basically from the group, Gen, Gen third gen. It's like a ankle bracelet.
right. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Ankle bracelet. So he walks the dog and he goes and finds the woman of the mother of
What else?
Hodag, and he
Yeah.
wants to apologize. And then it turns out she's the only non-asshole in this town. Well, besides Inga.
Yeah.
Inga was pretty nice. But
Yeah.
and she actually like manages to like shut it down. She like says some things, and it turns out she like has experience with this because of Hodag and blah 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 and these other things. And that was kind of fun. That she learned kind of a workaround, and she wants to tell him some things, and this starts to turn into an interesting mystery. And she's turning about Hodag, and um, she has these pictures, and she feels like something went wrong with him. Apparently,
Yeah. He's not
Camo,
mentally.
the conservative Christian guy, beat Hodag to a pulp. Well, she said something to the like spinal fluid came out his nose. I was like, oof, what a rough description.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and so she suspects wrongdoing, and now this
And she thinks
guy,
so though. So she says, "Thank you for basically having sex with that fascist prick's wife."
yeah,
uh, yeah, and long for years, hard and long for years until he found out. So, but even when we know that, like, that shouldn't make anybody hate him. So why would they hate him? Because they would hate her just as well. You know, she cheated on her husband with a cross jack. So it's like there's something else going on.
The
Like the public's
reason,
been told. Yeah.
right? There's definitely more going on than we know. I have some easy expectations. Austin says he's got
But
to hit the hay. Good night. Good
yeah.
night, Austin. Thanks for making it this far. We're almost wrapping up.
Yeah.
I suspect, based on what I've been reading, if you're a group like Third Gen, right, and they express like, oh, we your property of this is copyright, blah blah blah. Obviously, they're writing this story in a sense that these characters are sort of like a corporate power, not unlike the boys.
Like what?
But if I consider that, it, superheroes, if superheroes really existed, they would be bigger celebrities than celebrities, right? Um,
Yep.
and so if you operated superheroes in a fashion like a business, right, like a corporation would, let's say someone in your like in your did something not to your liking, not only would you fire them, but you'd run a PR campaign to trash them,
Exactly.
right? And so
Exactly.
I suspect, and then the populace, right? They look at all these like people that they idolize, right? They're following them on Twitter, all stuff. And if your idols are telling you this guy's trash, the general public buys into that, right? I mean, we've seen I call it the Trump effect. Like Trump became villain number one simply because everyone was told he was bad guy.
Yep.
And so most people don't even know. All they know is Orange Man bad. Orange Man bad. So Crossjack is like that. He's Shield Man bad. Um, that's what it seems like to me. This was also a very popular thing to do in the Image era, the early '90s. Like
Yep.
Spawn did this in every um, um,
And he was talking about it, and like he murdered. And then I love this. He comes out and he destroys the robot.
yeah. Crossjack, you are in violation of Code 1297 of the First Gen Charter. You are prohibited from any sort of crime fighting. Stay. Now he's
So we learned that his power basically, no matter what he throws, it always hits target.
right.
Yeah, so that's why he has all these different things. He even has a spear.
He's basically Bullseye
Yeah,
or Hawkeye.
exactly. He's a good version. He's basically if you had Hawkeye with Bullseye's powers.
Hawkeye essentially does have Bullseye's powers, though.
Mm, I guess you could say he could turn anything into a weapon.
I mean, he doesn't ever seem to miss with like if he throws something.
Yeah.
I always assumed he had. But either way, so we get the
So, but when I was reading this, I kept thinking like, man, this is like Clint Barton if like if Hawkeye was forced to basically like kick up the Avengers, and the Avengers are like making up shit about him, and now he's gonna try and solve the bigger, dilemma. Like, does it involve Camo? Is Camo would just discard him because he was basically having sex with his wife? But then you find out here's in this Hometown Hero, there's his girlfriend he was dating, Inga.
Zinga. Yeah, so we get
Yeah,
this story. The backup story here is again from the comic book stuff, and it seems to be a flashback. And this is when he gets invited to the team, Third Gen,
in the
and
great
so it's
state of
just.
Wisconsin.
And then who
Sorry.
shows up but one of his villains, Hodag,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, they're gonna like take him." He's like, "No, I got it." So he fights him solo and
Yeah,
defeats
Ho
him.
Dog actually. The things that we didn't mention, Ho Dog actually idolized him. Like they like he wanted to be him, but he's like he thought it was an honor to be his villain. You know, he was
Right.
never
Yeah.
really a serious villain. Yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah, when he talked to his mom, that was one of the things the mom was telling him was like he kind of knew that you didn't take this so seriously. That's kind of why he was your villain because he never thought you would take things so far. Because he was
yeah.
like explained to her like, "Look, I didn't kill him," and she's like, "Oh, I know you wouldn't. Like, I know you wouldn't hurt a hair on his head." Like, and that's what she explains because that's why Hodog was your villain because he knew that too. Like, um, and so I did think that was interesting. Um,
So yeah, so he gets picked up, with this, and then obviously like I was talking to Skip about this. Well, last week we're talking about this. Is that Inga? Yeah, she's gets pushed aside. He leaves with the team, and she's like, "What the heck's going on?" And he just sees him leave, and like she's like basically like left, like pushed aside, and obviously something went on. So he was thinking like we are talking like who could have murdered Hodag? Could have been Inga to get back at him. Could have been somebody else. You know, I said it's probably the dog. Never trust the dog. But anyway, though, like I
So
said,
on this last page here,
yeah,
I kind of get the impression, as you know, again, as we're just getting little pieces of the puzzles, the pictures being filled in, it almost seems like
he wasn't
maybe
serious.
no, that maybe the reason why everyone hates him is because he was this little hometown guy, right? He had these powers. He gets invited by Third Gen, which I'm assuming is kind of the equivalent of the Avengers or whatever, his big team. And look how he just leaves. Like his girlfriend's like, Jack, you know, and then the this guy, this boat guy in the bow tie here, he's just like, oh, we could,
Yeah,
you know, put you in a movie and you know all this stuff, filling his head with the. And then Hodag's like, Jack, and then like, what about us? And he just flies away on the helicopter. And I'm wondering if it's like one of those cases where guy
jilted
like
lover.
leaves everyone else behind because you know he's being made to be this important, so he forgets where he came from, so to speak. And
Yeah,
so now all the people that were there for him all his life are abandoned, right? We know that she goes off and marries the other guy. And so when he comes back, down on his luck, right? Because remember, it's been 20 years. So 20 years later, he comes back to all these people he abandoned. And they, so I, that it seems to make sense why they might be like, oh, you know, like F you, dude. Like now you're coming back to this town. Now we matter. You know, like when you went off and did all these screwed up things and you know screwed up your life. That seems to be like a reaction that makes sense from people of
yeah.
like, how dare you
I
come crawling back? You know,
but I also wonder. I mean, like I said, as far as the murder stuff, like is Inga obviously she reached out to him. He didn't reach out to her first. Is she still obsessed with him? Like, does she want to be with him, or is this, or maybe she? Like I said, right now she's my prime suspect for being the murderer.
no, she can't be your prime suspect because his alibi is her alibi.
Well, no, he saw how she walked. She was going to get a ride. No, and yeah, and he walked the other way. He walked home.
No. The reason why
She
he
could have
got let
drove.
go is because at the time of the murder, he was with Inga.
Yes.
So if that is an alibi for him, it's all automatically an alibi for her.
Oh, sure it is. It covers up that fact she could have killed the Hodag.
No, because otherwise he would be a suspect. You can't have an
She
alibi
they
that you
lied and
didn't
said
murder him because you were with Inga at
they
the
lied. No,
time.
they lied and said they were together, but he didn't mention is that they went their separate ways. You know, she didn't drop him off. I said she's still at this, as far as me, she's still a prime suspect. Everyone's a suspect. We also know there's a droid
Uh,
that's been following him around too the other night. The droid followed him. He's with the dog. Who murdered him? You know.
yeah, I guess maybe. I guess yeah. When you put it in that sense, maybe it could have been her because he says he's with because that's his alibi. He's like, yeah, he says, Inga, call your wife. She's my alibi. And then it cuts to him being released. He's like, that's it. And he's like, Inga says she was with you. That's good enough for me. Even if she wasn't my wife, she's still royalty in this town. So put some pants on. Um, so I suppose, yeah, I suppose it could have been he was with her. They split up. He's like, and then he just says I was with her. She of course says, yeah, he was with me, and then that's it. But the murder happened after they split, Yeah, that would be a good red herring. So I could
And
see that being possible.
the fact that Hodag was trying to tell him something at the bar, we don't know
Yeah.
what. He said, "I just want to talk.
Yeah.
I have something to tell you." Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
If this turns
so
out to be a TV series, I want Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. I don't know if
But
this is good enough for it to be a TV series yet. This is also the way it's done with the whole comic book flashbacks. It would be hard to do live action, but it's an interesting book. So anyone who hasn't checked this out, I would say give it a try. Oh, here's one of the alternate covers with
plus bootleg.
Shadowhawk.
Was she the bootleg? Was she a hero too?
I don't know. Can Spines with Shadowhawk.
Yep. Issue 3 is out tomorrow. Today is actually Tuesday now, so Tuesday morning. So it's Wednesday morning. Check it out. The Local Man will be on the shelves. The third issue.
It's very interesting in the sense that it's like a superhero book,
But a
like
mystery book too.
but it's also like a murder mystery. Like it's a who
And
done it, but with this
yes.
in superheroes. Yeah.
And that's why Skip said he liked it. He's like, it's disguised as a comic book story. Villains, heroes are there. Sure, they're in there, but that's not it. It's like a detective story. Uh, fugitive story. A guy framed for something that he may have not done. It's like it's a mystery. So I honestly I look forward to reading the third issue, and I hope that it just gets better and better. Because it definitely for me it proved from issue. Like I said, issue 1 was kind of rough, but then second issue is like, oh, it got better. So I'm hoping that keeps to be the trend. And honestly, I do hope there's something on with the ex with Inga. You know, like I don't trust her because you saw in that flashback how he just left her like she was
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
Yeah.
And women hold grudges.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. And it would be a really, really good red herring. Like the way you said, like, oh, she could be the suspect. I was like, no, she can't be the suspect because they have the same alibi. But this is a way of bypassing the alibi. Like if you come back and it turned out to be like I'm just imagining at the end of this like story, it was like, oh, it's her. And I'm like, wait, how could it be her? And then you cut back to
yeah,
that scene. It's like after that's a really good way to hide things in plain sight. Is what I'm saying. Like that's so yeah. We'll see. Um,
I still say
see,
the dog.
it's not the dog. How dare you?
It's
Pepper,
not even a real
Pepper's
dog.
Pepper's the real hero of the story.
Pepper's not even a dog. It's a flirkin in
No,
disguise.
no, Flurkins are dumb. All right.
Exists.
Speaking of dumb, we're done. I think that does it for tonight.
All right, kids. Hope you had fun. Hope that you're able to hold your liquor while you're watching this tonight, and in a few seconds you'll go take a piss.
And if Skip, you're watching this on the if you're watching this on the replay, leave a comment down below so I know. I want to I want to know for sure that you watched it because I don't trust you. Just kidding. Um, I don't know who's still watching this late at night, but if you're still here, thank you very much. And if you're watching on the replay, also thank you very much. Um, you have any final things you want to mention before we click the end button?
Today, stop over by Extreme Movie Show at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. I'll be over there with Rob. We're to talk about the latest episode of Rabbit Hole with Kiefer Sutherland, and it is getting better and better. Charles Vance is awesome in there too, and Peter Weller is on there too as a bad guy.
Oh, that's
The
cool.
show is it's just getting better and better with each episode. Um, So check out the review for that. It's gonna be a spoiler review. So I do recommend you, if you haven't watched these shows, go watch them first. And it's okay to binge them. It might make more sense because these are kind of like they do kind of they give you a little bit of information each episode, and then they kind of go back to the previous episode, like, oh, you might have missed that when this is it's connected. So you kind of it's kind of what you're going to pay attention. You also got to watch out. There might be some red herrings too. Um, and then 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come over here. On Tuesday nights, we talk about the top 5 books that are in exact mine. Each of ours our pull lists, and we just calm down. That'll be like an hour, and yeah.
Top 5
All right, kid.
anticipated books, not
Well,
necessarily.
yeah,
No, I'm just clarifying. When you say top 5 books, people are like, wait, it's a books. It's not the books you know to be the best, the ones you're most anticipating. And then on Thursday, you guys do a follow-up show where you
yep, same
see
time,
how right you were.
pretty much. It's a fun way to get everybody interacted. Just basically to interact and yeah, have fun. You know,
Right. So this week, I only have one book that crosses over on your diagram. I got Ambassadors. So we'll be covering Ambassadors next week for sure, but we'll need to come up with at least one other book.
start reading some Mark Wade, World's Finest.
Oh, it's too much. It's too much Mark Wade in my life.
Well, next week, Green Arrow hits the shelves this week. First issue of Green Arrow.
Green Arrow. Why do I
Yep.
care? Why do I care about Green Arrow?
Joshua Williamson, Green Arrow.
They're putting Joshua Williamson on Green Arrow?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
What the what? I don't even DC. I don't understand you, DC anymore.
He's still doing Superman. He's just writing 2 stories. They did 2 characters. Yep. Joshua Williamson, and then yeah, it's then you have Sean Izatsky. He's gonna be doing some art in the interior.
All right, maybe I'll check out Green Arrow. It's the first issue, so it's at least worth checking out to see.
Well, I'll just read the synopsis for you here. It's reunion because at the end of the last arc they had, where basically they had, remember the Justice League were all dead. Everyone came back except for Oliver Queen. Oliver Queen's been missing this whole entire time. So basically, it says the Emerald Archer is lost. It'll take Oliver Queen's whole family to find him. They got Connor, Roy, and Black Canary on there. Basically, Dinah. But they basically have to try to look for him, and the most but dangerous forces are determined to keep them apart at any cost, spinning out of the Dark Crisis, Infinite Earth, Green Arrow. Joshua Williamson, who basically wrote both those, Dark Crisis, Infinite Earth, and artist Sean Izaki from Thunderbolts, must be one of the current ones, is an action-packed adventure across the DC universe that sets the stage for the major stories of 2023. Frank Cho has a variant with Black Canary on it. So, like I said, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Oh, yeah, you'll be getting the Frank Cho variant.
If I can find it, bro. If I can find it. Yep.
That's a pretty good Black Canary cover.
Bro, for Sonya, Persona. Who even is that? Sona. They never list the full name, last name.
No, it's
Huh.
David Nakayama.
Okay, because I see Sona over there. It says SOH. Yeah, okay. Okay, that makes more sense. The DNA. David not okay. Because I was like, who the hell? It looks like a Sona. I was like, who the hell? Sona?
This is the Ejikure card stock variant.
Yes.
And that's some hips on Black Canary there.
In the fashions.
That's
No cleavage, but it's okay.
That's some birthing hips right there.
That looks like a callback to the Birds of Prey stuff, but she's got the weird cover up blue.
I am not a fan Number one, I'm not a fan of bow characters. Number two, I'm not a fan of bow characters that have a whole family of bow character family members.
My only thing that's gonna drive it's just gonna drive me out for this because I don't give two shits about Connor, his illegitimate son.
I give equal amount of shits to Arsenal, who should be dead
I think
still.
well, the Flash basically 1 minute war solved that problem. Basically, what they did is they got rid of Heroes in Crisis and basically nerfed that shit.
So, but
Yeah.
you know, like I always say, good is good. So even even though I'm not predisposed to like these characters or this whatever, if it's a fun story, I'll check it out. I'll try to keep an open mind. I do like Josh Williamson. Unlike you pretend fans, I actually buy his indie books. But
I like him when he's not doing indie books.
uh, so all right. That might give us something to read. Any other new comics? I guess you're gonna talk about this tomorrow, so I don't want to go really in depth.
uh,
But um,
no, Iron Man. I'll be talking about that maybe a little bit. I don't care about the Mary Jane Black Cats. I'm just done with that shit. Sure, we'll probably talk about the Scorched
I,
Ambassadors. Definitely
I,
Monica Rambo.
Ambassador's so low. I guess makes me
Yeah,
sad.
there's a third local man right there.
Oh, it's Local Man. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
book to talk about. I totally. All right. So we got books we're talking about next week.
Definitely, yeah.
All right,
Feeling weird.
kiddos. Thank you for making it this far, this late.
Torrent. There's plenty of good books to talk about.
Oh, it's Torrent.
It's
Oh,
Monday.
it's Torrent too. Oh, geez, we might
Yeah.
have quite a few books to talk about. Um, that's it. I think
Yep.
I'll probably be around for the show tomorrow. So
All right. All right.
I'll see you
You
then.
can hop if you can hop on when he leaves. You want?
Okay.
You can hop
Uh,
on for Ash on Trades.
Ash on Trades.
uh,
Uh, I can
I
hop
want to
on
do
so
anything.
your partner can go leave and play his game.
He's not my partner. He's a co-host.
What, you guys get married? No, you're not partners anymore. All
Uh,
right, that's enough. We out of here. You got anything you want to
yeah.
say? I'll let you have the final words.
Ash is wrong about Star Wars. Good night, guys.